Crazy.
Well, good evening.
We're back.
We're on.
When was the last one? A few weeks ago.
It was like probably 3 weeks ago. Oh, hey.
Wow.
Yeah. So welcome back to Smoking Oak.
Well, I finally just got enough together last night to even do the draw from it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Just busy. Seems busy. Too busy.
Too busy. Yeah.
So,
the draw was whittling down. There's only a couple of folks that haven't got anything yet.
Only two. Well, what did we talk about last time? We talked about inflation. And
inflation. Yeah.
It didn't take long to go back to the live chat.
Yeah.
It wasn't
lots of repeat customers.
A whole bunch of people.
Chad's on. Good evening.
Chad's in.
Yeah. Awesome.
Also, when I was listening back, I don't know if I sit or I don't talk to this or I sit too far away, but you can hear yourself really clearly.
I noticed that actually in the last recording. Yeah, I don't know if that's the
so I gotta sit up.
The baritone in my voice,
right?
Or
Stan's got bigger chest and
shoulders back, chest forward.
Back, right? So I gotta do that too. See if I can
I'll get you a cushion or something.
Might need something to sit on. Booster seat.
We need to actually figure out about getting these
get them
reupholstered. Yeah, I need to find a guy that can do this.
I think Smoking Joe will do it.
Smoking Joe out of saddle leather. Just the King Ranch of Queen Anne chairs.
I don't know. Is there like he's a saddle maker? So is there much?
I don't know.
If you're a chair upholster guy, are you also like a purse maker or a?
Well, I always envisioned like saddle leather being thicker. You know, like.
Yeah, tougher, thicker, more durable. I think probably like anything.
You know,
he knows what to get for.
I was envisioning this being covered in like virgin goat leather or something. I don't know. Yeah. You know, because it's all velvety and soft, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's crazy to think like how old these chairs are, and it's just still like soft and everything. But
well, yeah, when you look after things, they can be 150 years old.
I guess that's true. Yeah, that's true. So we'll get to that in a bit.
Awesome.
But Robin Tangadall's on. Good evening. Yeah. So
the big winner.
I haven't told Robin yet. Yeah, he's the big winner.
Well, he should have known because he was on there.
Well, but I don't know if he got. You don't tag him, right? So, Robin, if you're watching, which you are obviously you are watching, he did win the Smoking Oak Cup. So
yeah, that or a coffee cup
or I think we're just down to whiskey glasses now.
So we can get more coffee cups.
We have the technology. We know a guy.
I know a guy.
Awesome. Yeah, Randy's on. How are you both tonight? Glad to join in. Well, I'm glad to have you. I tell you.
He was just at the farm today. I was just telling him about that. Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Getting some conspiracy-free chicken feed, or
he actually did, yeah. It was funny too because I had misread. I thought he wanted 10 bags. He wanted 5 bags. I was just firing on there. I was like, "Okay, there's 7," and I went for 8. And he's like, "No, what are you doing?"
It's a 2-for-1 deal.
But anyways, he took 7.
Yeah, well, that's mighty good of him. Yeah, yeah.
But, that's great. But yeah, great. Glad you dropped in, Randy. It'll be fun tonight because I've already planned to go off topic.
Yeah, this
just with the week that Stan and I both had on social media.
I think we have like an underlying topic that we'll probably get to at some point tonight.
Oh, you betcha.
Which maybe I don't know, maybe the second or third drink in, and then we'll tell you what we really think about tonight's topic.
Yeah, that's once people can feel it heating up, and then they can send the little ears so farther away.
I think it's safe to say we can agree that climate change is real, but farming doesn't need to stop.
I don't think it would be to the benefit of the population of the planet for farming to stop.
Yeah.
Over a little bit of.
We'll get there. So Kristen's on too. Yeah, perfect. Oh, we're gonna have a full house tonight.
Awesome.
Oh man.
I would say share it around, but I don't know how to do that either. So
yeah,
if you do know how to share it, and there's somebody you think would benefit or enjoy watching this.
Well, if you're watching on your smart TV, it's pretty much impossible to. You can't comment, you can't share, you can't do anything on a smart TV. But if you're watching on your tablet or your iPhone or your Android or whatever, you can go right below the screen and hit share and copy the link and throw it out on social media to all your Facebook friends or whatever you want to do. Right.
So the more the merrier.
Yeah.
Keep the live chat rolling and people start their own thing in there and
keep the discussion. Yeah, it's kind of cool to see some of the side convos that go on, between some of the viewers and pairing folks up. Fred's on. Evening, boys. Good evening. Yeah, Chad says he's put his tinfoil hat on. He's already here. Boy, I tell you, did that ever get out of hand? Hey,
that was. But it's funny when it happens to you.
You
when
prick.
it happens to me, I'm just ready to go.
You set me up for that one, though.
I did.
tell you,
I did.
oh, what do you think about this? And then I was living under a rock. I didn't even realize that was a thing until you tipped me off. And then I looked. I'm like, these fucking idiots. Like, is this for real?
I had a lady from Fort St. John phone me, and she's like, "Did I see something on your website that they're putting something in the chicken feed?" And I spent about 20 minutes explaining to her the situation and the fact that I was just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, in fact, there is this emerging dialogue out of the States where people are really into
They're
this.
thinking they're going to medicate the chicken feed to curb the avian bird flu, but secretly it's a plan to make everybody so they're not immune to COVID and they all have to get vaccinated. And holy man, like you got to move a lot of pieces together. The whole thing with that is what baffles me is you can look at, let's say, take Joe Biden or even Justin Trudeau as an example. You put those two on the TV. What are we resoundingly going to agree upon? They're incompetent, right? They're totally incompetent, right? So it's really tough for me as somebody that just could sit there and watch that to think that there's, leading some type of evil cabal to,
I know.
forge a one world government.
I've told a lot of people that. I said, like, I don't know what's true or whatever, but I think you're giving them too much credit. Like, I don't think that, and in fact, so just before I came over here, apparently we've shot something out of the sky over the Yukon ourselves here this evening. Well, Justin Trudeau scrambled the jets to shoot down another balloon.
Well, that's good because we let the first two float over Canada anyway.
The thing is, so when you bring up my farm on Google Maps, there's a picture from about 7 years ago. And in that picture, if you look at our yard, you can see our blue tractor with our FlexiCoil drill, our tandem grain truck filling it up. That's how detailed this is.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was just looking at all our fields. So you go to the field about 4 miles away, and you can see my dad, and you can tell that it's a green John Deere tractor. You can tell the color of the rims.
Yeah.
You can tell it's a Burgo cultivator because you can see the color, and it's pulling a big anhydrous tank. So this picture was taken 7 years ago. Did anybody really believe that the Chinese or the Russians would send a fucking balloon in 2023 to take pictures? Like that technology existed a long time ago to make
from a satellite
extremely detailed pictures. And I realize what we get isn't real time. That picture, if you look today, it's 7 years ago. But the guy that owns the satellite, he can get that real time picture. Oh, for sure. Like he just, if you phoned up
right now,
Mr. Musk, he would, sure, I'll take a picture.
It goes over like
you can see what you're
70 times a day.
I guarantee you.
Yeah.
So the whole thing about being like a spy balloon like this, maybe 70 years ago.
Yeah.
But not today. What is it? I don't even know. But it's. So now I guess I sound like
it was funny though. In the Second World War, the Japanese actually did.
Well, you had said that
they did float balloons over, and they had incendiary devices on them. They were trying to start forest fires, which is hilarious because like I think they launched like 5,000, and like 90% of them all just landed in the Pacific Ocean. They never even got here, right?
Well, maybe that's where these balloons came from. Maybe someone heard you over the phone talking about that, and they're like, "Yeah, we should do that again."
Yeah.
Right? You ever get that idea? Where
revisit an old friend here.
You say something, and then the next day your phone is like showing you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about that.
You hear about a yellow car, and then suddenly you see a yellow car. Like, oh, this is suspicious.
But anyways, that's probably that wasn't even going to be any of the topics.
I got to start speaking winning lottery numbers into reality or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. Fred says of an F-22 that shot it down over the Yukon. Man, I don't even know how they get those things in the air anymore.
Well, I guess the funny thing, because I'd only read a piece of the article, but apparently they scrambled all the Canadian stuff, and it's still an American plane that had to go shoot it down. But
it was still an American plane.
Yeah, and then I was even talking too, because like everybody's so proud.
Weren't we going to buy a bunch of used F-22s from the States? That was the thing.
Yeah, I think they did. Or they're still
he said he wasn't gonna, and then I think we did eventually, anyways. So quick oil change and away you go.
Yeah, what could go wrong, right?
Yeah.
Old technology. But I know there was a big everybody was so excited about how successful this takedown of this balloon over the Pacific, I believe it was. And I was thinking, like, I would be more proud if they could have captured it, and then they could have known what it was. Like, was it, because once you got it, you can dissect what it is.
Sure.
I'm sure then you can. Oh, actually, this is one. So
just go
harm, no foul. Right?
Go up there with
I mean, they could have hot air ballooned themselves
up there with a blimp or whatever.
Grabbed it.
Yeah,
right?
the Remax.
They had to blow it up and then scatter it about the ocean with no chance of finding it or piecing it back. So no one will ever know. Like,
Yeah.
In 2023, just you can't write this shit.
You just go up there with the Remax balloon and just like put a tagline on it.
Well, that's what I thought.
Bring it
Rope it, eh?
Yeah.
Just lasso it and bring it down. See what it is. Can't be that hard. But no,
Wouldn't
blow
that be
it up.
Yeah, isn't that something?
But
Our F-18s are 40 years old. Yeah, they should be parked. They should. Wow. Yeah, they might be now. I don't even know what I'm talking about with that stuff. But
no, me neither.
yeah.
So
what are we drinking
what
tonight?
are we drinking? So, anyways, yeah, for Randy or anybody that's new in here. So the whole concept, this all came about. Neither Stan and I are drinkers or smokers. And
We don't drink. We don't smoke.
One night we were just
Special occasions.
What would be like a cool thing to do? It was to drink scotch and smoke cigars. So we have a humidor here. 100. What's it called? It's a something 150.
Is it 150?
Del Rey.
I think you're right. I think it is a Del Rey.
And it's full, believe it or not. So we actually
It's so full that the other one's half full.
Oh, did you put something in there?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, we do have another. I was watching back. Yeah, there's another one. Of course, this is going to be obviously years down the road. But if we ever hit 1,000 subscribers, we're going to give
that one away. Yeah.
So
that's the overflow parking right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. We got back here. I don't even know now. I think there was 20 at one point. There must be more than that now. All different sorts of scotches that we've bought and tried, and there's a few that are unopened, but mostly they're all sampled. But none of them are empty. I don't think
nothing's empty. We've never finished a bottle. Yeah.
So tonight we're gonna have Loch Lomond. So it's
Loch Lomond.
Lomond. I was gonna ask you before we got on here, because everything that comes out of Scotland is not pronounced the way you think it's pronounced.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
Like the Islay whiskey is Islay, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I think Jura is actually Jura.
Jura is Jura, yeah.
So Loch
Lomond.
Yeah.
It is beautiful place. It's a real place, Loch Lomond.
Yeah, it is. Well, actually, the cool thing. So I was reading in the Scotch book.
Excuse me.
It's back to I think 1864 or something, but or not, even being that old, it didn't have near the industry with it. Seemed to be like a commercially, they run more than one distillery and it's bought and sold, and there was nothing special about it. It had no ties to royalty. It had no. It was kind of boring. The one thing that was interesting, they run 3 pairs of pots or 3 pairs of stills.
Yeah,
and they have in the book the column still. And now, to be a true Scotch, it has to be distilled in a pot still. So they have this set that they got recently that's a column still. So it's actually making some pretty big waves in the Scotch community.
Sure.
Should this be called Scotch? That's done. They've geared this up to manufacture a lot of different types. Like they can 12 types of Scotch. So they're basically a blended thing. And that's what they want to do. They want to make a bunch of blended Scotches. To get a single malt is actually kind of rare from them. So this one that you have here, and it wasn't in the book. This has a lot of Scotches in it, but I think it's sibling Scotch is in here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because it does seem to actually be quite rare. Now, rare doesn't make it more expensive. Just it's a rare. It is to be a rare Scotch. So on the nose, creamy vanilla. It had like a 78 out of 100 rating, which anything over 75 is really good.
Oh, okay, yeah.
On the palate, brown sugar, spice, orchard fruits, and then towards the end, vanilla, and it gets quite dry.
Gotcha.
So it's going to be. It should be a good Scotch.
Should be good.
I expect, from what I read, should be a little bit of a darker Scotch. I'm curious to see what it looks like inside.
Well, let's crack it open.
And I expect it's going to be similar to the Dalmars. So it's going to be
really.
It should be.
Well, I'm hopeful because today, when you asked me, do I want to review the cigar? Do I want to review the whiskey? I couldn't help but quickly just have a look at the link I sent you and see what some of the reviewers had to say. And it was kind of a mixed bag. For some, they quite enjoyed it, and for some, it was the worst thing that ever crossed their lips. But this one, I actually got this from Twisters. You know where Twist, like downtown Grand Prairie?
No, I don't.
Twisters. right across kitty corner from the Crystal Center.
Okay.
Anyways, back in there, I stopped in to grab some, and that's a liquor store I'd never been to, so I was like, oh, go in there and curious. And then the guy behind the counter just started like almost harassing me for a job because he wanted to come work for the same company I work for.
Oh, I see.
And I'm like, I'm just gonna buy the most visually appealing box they had in there and get out of town because I don't really want to engage in that conversation. So
I'm actually pretty proud. So we are very much amateur Scotch and cigar people, but
amateur. Cool whip.
But yeah, I'm getting better because that is fairly dark.
That is, yeah.
So
yeah,
exciting. But let's.
And you say a little bit of like spice, like Christmas cake spice, or what are we expecting? Nutmeg and cinnamon.
It's the other ones. The other ones were like peppery and things like that.
Okay.
This one says 5 spice, I assume.
Okay, it's a little bit like allspice. Yeah, it'll be Christmas cakey, I'm sure. Any sherry in the cask or anything like that?
That they are just what are they? It says where did I see that? I didn't even write that down. I think it just said oak barrels.
Okay.
It didn't.
I did.
And that's truly it. When you read about the Dalmore, when you read about these other ones, there's tremendous history. This really seemed to be just like a commercial.
Yeah.
Even when it was founded, just was a commercial distillery.
Well, there's a lot of them that are like that. They really were intended to make blended scotches.
And that's what this was. That's why they have these stills. They're all set up differently.
Single malt wasn't really even a hit outside of Scotland until like the 1960s, right? So
it should be.
Hopefully the cork doesn't snap on this.
It should be all right. Which one was that? Yeah,
that was what we had last time. The McClellan.
The McClellan.
I just kind of got the cork sitting on there. I still got to filter that bottle out and get a new cork put in it. The anticipation.
Oh, it always smells so good. It burns the nostrils.
Oh yeah, that's gonna have a little. It's gonna have a little bite to it. What's the ABV on this? Like 46? Yeah, 46. That's all spice, eh? Yes, please. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Back on the. I don't know. I don't know if I'll probably do a splash of water after, because it's powerful.
Yeah, that's pretty volatile on the nose.
It is. So you're looking for creamy vanilla and baked apple turnover.
I didn't get any of that. Oh. I got straight biodiesel.
I'll be honest with you, Brian.
I'll be honest. Yeah. Right off the get-go, as it crossed over my tongue, it felt like metallic, but not like tinfoil metallic, more like if you stuck your tongue to the flagpole kind of metallic.
I was watching.
Then there was a hint of fruit, but it's just like it's fleeting, and then there's just burn. So I'm glad I took some Pepsid before this, because that might be a cup of heartburn.
When I was watching back to find the people to enter into the draw,
yeah,
I ended up back at the Filthy Hooligan in Highland Park.
Oh.
And I watched a quick cigar and whiskey review, and that was kind of funny because we had talked about how like we probably will never be taken seriously ever by anyone who actually knows what they're doing, because the reviews smells like a glove box of an old tandem grain truck.
Oh, you're gonna love this one then. Anyways, to hell with them, all those pretentious fools that talk about vanilla and almonds and all this other stuff.
I was surprised because obviously the guy that wrote this book is fairly, I don't know, knows his scotches.
I mean, he should have had a glass or two.
Said even if I rated it a 50, give it a try because I might just have been
That's
off
right.
that day.
That's
and I
right.
thought, like, none of this makes sense because Stan and I would both admit all the time that when we read the tasting notes, seldom, 5% of the time, do we ever get them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I noticed that definitely with cigars more so. Like the whiskey, if they say spice, they say apple, they say fruitcake. I think that's some fairly middle of the road statements to make, right?
That's true. They're kind of blanket.
But when they get into like creamy vanilla,
But that Filthy Hooligan cigar, when I said that was going to taste like sour cream, and you said you instantly got that.
Oh, it definitely instantly tastes like sour cream.
A mouthful.
Yeah, like sour cream that's been like in the back of the fridge for 2 months or something.
That was a good cigar. I don't care what you say. That was a good cigar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, each into their own, and that's one thing that we definitely learned with this is that regardless of what somebody else says, you're going to have your own palate, your own things that you prefer, right? So.
And as far as smoke goes,
for a treat. It is a special occasion. I don't know if you've told the folks at home.
Most of them know.
Because they're mutual viewers.
Absolutely, but yeah, we had a little girl.
Congratulations.
She's 2 weeks old, 2 weeks and 2 days. So
here's a very special cigar to celebrate that moment. If you look these up on the internet, you can buy these for about $10 out of the United States, but here in Canada, they're significantly more. So we get to celebrate with this. This is a Joya de Nicaragua, Antaño Gran Reserva. It's in a Robusto Grande size, so it's 5.5 by 52 ring gauge. Joya de Nicaragua is actually the oldest cigar manufacturer in Nicaragua. And despite being the oldest manufacturer in Nicaragua, they still only were founded in 1968. So they're still fairly new on the market in terms of the cigar crowd. Where can I stuff this? I'll hide that up there for now. Founded in 1908, 1968. In the 1970s, these were actually a favorite in the American White House. So they had to give out to everybody. And then, of course, in an effort to kind of relive the glory days, in 2001, the manufacturers of these came up with the Antaño edition, right? So Antaño is the Spanish word for yesteryear. So they're just trying to recapture or relive, I guess, some of the glory days of cigars, right? So to take longer to light. It's quite an oily, full-bodied, heavy cigar, right? So it's going to take longer to light. The flavors are going to be robust, heavy with cinnamon, molasses on the palate, which is going to counterbalance black pepper and, wait for it, manure from their own website. So
perfect. That's what I want.
If it smells like behind the seat of a grain truck, that's exactly how it's intended to be. And right from manufacturer.
It is shocking to me, having spent a lot of time in 80s, 70s era grain trucks, that have never been in a shop and had a mouse build a nest in the seat. How close this smells like that.
Yeah.
Like it is shocking to me.
Yeah, 100%.
But we found the most appalling smell before it's lit has been the best cigar.
They usually are, yeah. They usually seem to be.
And the ones that smell sweet, or they end up being just a bland.
You're nothing special, yeah. Or they burn uneven or whatever, right? So, so speaking of that, this one is supposed to burn evenly. The ash is supposed to 1 inch to 2 inch, and then it's going to want to break off, and then so you can't keep your ash for too long. And I just happen to notice that I don't have an ashtray sitting here, so this is going to get interesting.
Good thing you're a fireman.
Yeah, don't worry, darling. I'm a volunteer fire. I think I got a coffee can over
box
there.
Press as well.
It's a box press, yeah. So expected smoke time is about 1 hour and 45 minutes. But they do say that it's expected you may have to relight, because I mean it's a tight cigar, right?
So for us, this is going to be a 2 hour smoke time.
It could very well be a 2 or even a 3. I'm just going to get the.
Well, while you find that, so yeah, there's nine folks on. If there's anybody new, after the end of every single live, we go back and we look at the live chat. And if you participated, made some comments, we throw your name in a draw. And we have these sublimated Smoking Oak whiskey glasses. We've had sublimated Smoking Oak coffee cups. And there was some hoodies. I don't know where they are. There's still a few around. But yeah, if you win, you can choose between a coffee cup, a whiskey glass, or a hoodie.
I don't know why it does that. I got to get that autofocus off that camera, because when you come up and you do this, we all get like that bokeh effect in the back.
Oh,
right?
okay.
They get all blurry and
But
weird.
I suppose as long as they can see the cup.
As long as they can see the cup, that's all that
all
matters.
right, I guess. I
Um,
don't know if you can even see it. You can't see it in there. You can just see the top of it. But anyways, that's that.
that's where we're at.
And if you go back and look at any of our other 15 lives, you'll see the same thing. And
So what do you think the best way to cut a box press cigar is?
I have a feeling, and I'm going to cheat because I'm part of Smoking Oak, that it's to use the circle one.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but just curiosity has me.
The punch cutter.
So,
And it would make sense to me because in order to trim just a little bit of this off,
well, I
It'd
think
be tricky.
it's already under pressure from being box pressed, right? So I assume that the wrap, where the wrapper meets the cap, there could be some tension there.
mm-hmm.
And I'm nervous about, and I know I don't like a V cut. A friend of mine, Chris, we had a cigar over the summer. Actually, it was maybe May long weekend. It's a while back now. Anyways, he has a V cutter and he cut it, and I just felt like it just didn't seem proper in my mouth. Right?
Okay.
So I had a coyote issue the other day, and well, lo and behold, you end up with one of these.
That was the spoils of your work.
And yeah, this is the only thing I brought home. That's fine. Some things need to just stay where they are. So you want to give her a try and see?
I will do that. So this is going to be the first for me. You just find the center and push, or what? Push and twist. Jiggle,
Yeah,
jiggle,
just
twist and pull.
just ever so gently,
You got
right?
that sharp. Wow.
Yeah, no, I spent a long time with a piece of sandpaper and a drill, actually. Oh, BP's on.
You're making a nightmare out of this.
So you guys look like a couple guys from the Al Capone crew.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
I don't think I went all the way through, or what's going on.
Well, you don't have to go very far. Just check your draw and see if you got there.
I don't think I think there's still a wrapper here. There you go.
I actually picked up some cheap cigars last week to try this thing out, because I thought, well, I don't really want to wreck an expensive one.
I'm not sure. It's got to be through though.
Oh yeah, we're good there.
What's yours look like?
Looks like that. You want to go?
Back here.
They just the tip, but you
You-
poke that in there a little bit.
You've been practicing.
No, I just did it. I just did it the once. Just the once. Well, they said this thing's going to take longer than normal to light, so let's get toasting.
I don't know. I'm not happy with it, but we'll see. We'll see where we end up.
Well, the good thing about that is, I mean, you really haven't lost any ground. If it's not working out for you, you can easily just do a guillotine cut, right?
Absolutely. That is true. Oh, man, that smells good. That actually smells like a cigarette. That's the first one that smells like a cigarette.
Oh, I got too close to that. That went right up my nose.
Also, I don't know what costs more, if it's the cigars, the scotch, or just the butane in these lighters. But we're doing our part to keep the butane industry alive.
You the big one?
No, I think I got it here.
What do you miss there? Chad says Robin's riding the struggle bus there. He's damn near drank a beer already. Well, good for you. We'll try our best to keep up.
Oh, that smells so good.
That is a gem, I tell you.
Yeah, that's a good cigar.
That's a really good cigar. Yeah. I often find with the box press that there's always a draw issue, right? Because they're taking that cigar and they're just compacting it and compressing it. This draw is really nice.
Yeah, it's good. So the original topic for tonight is going to be something along the lines of stop the farming, global crisis, and whatnot.
Yeah. Did you ever see that the video? I think we've all anybody that's ever, unless they've lived under a rock and had a TikTok account at the same time, probably.
The young man.
There's a young fella in a street side interview, inner city,
with burlap pants on,
with some real nice hemp trousers. Yeah, says farming needs to stop. It's the single biggest driver of climate change, and I think just about every farmer that was on some form of social media told him to, go eat his shorts in no uncertain terms, right?
Oh yes.
But I mean, I immediately got angry when I saw that, and I did actually post a response video to that, and I got banned off. I got one of many bans on TikTok that I've had. I don't know how I haven't been permanently kicked off there yet, but apparently, you're not allowed to speak out about stuff like that. But anyways, it just immediately I got my heckles up, right? Like, okay, well, is farming really the single biggest driver of climate change? Or is it human desire? Because it's certainly not human need. It's what we want. It's not what we need. And we've talked about this in previous live streams and both videos on our personal channels as well, about how much waste there actually is, and what that the impact of that on climate change. And arguably we can't just stop farming, because I don't know about you, but I'm pretty fond of eating breakfast in the morning.
It is nice to eat food.
Yeah, and so
and food security throughout the year is pretty nice, which really only exists in the modern world due to commercial agriculture.
Well, for sure.
So, like you say about the waste, there are aspects of agriculture. There are aspects in all industry that definitely need to be worked on. But I do believe, because I think that people are genuinely good, that this is happening, right? There are advancements happening behind the scenes all the time, and people are working at making things better.
Well, we should get better at farming.
But you can't.
No doubt about that. But you can't stop, right? You can become more efficient with certain processes, but I mean, there's a reason that there's so many acres required for so many cows, and we're deforesting huge portions of South America to make room for grazing cattle, is simply because what are we doing with that meat? We're throwing 30% of it away, which is entirely a Western problem. They're not doing that in the Middle East. They're not doing that in Asia. They're not doing that anywhere else in the world, but really Western Europe and North America, right, is the sole cause of that, right? Whereas our gluttonous desire and basic disregard for life in some cases.
Absolutely, and that what's the word now? It's escaped me, but that need for it to be there right now. That that's
instant gratification.
That spur of the moment, that need where if you walk into the store and it's not there, then you're
spontaneous.
Mad. So spontaneous, right. So the spontaneous shopper who can't plan anything needs to have every possible option available to them the minute they're in there.
Yeah,
and if they don't, there's a massive problem. So the situation has existed now to create the environment where this can exist. And anybody that's ever been part of a loop program or known anybody that's part of a loop program can see the back end of that, where you have tremendous waste in meat, in produce, in bakeries, baked goods.
Yeah,
it really is a sin.
Well, I mean, I remember as a kid, even, the question came up: what do you want for your next meal? Right? You had the choice. It was that privilege that was there, and now it's some 40 years later is well, what do you want? And it doesn't matter even if it's not at your fingertips. You can just hit the old skip the dishes app, or there's a variety of different ones out there. and have it delivered right to your door within 45 minutes or whatever, right? So that is definitely that instant gratification piece. You come back to our grandparents, I don't even know if they would have asked that question. Like, what do you want for dinner? Fucking potatoes. What do you think we're going to eat? Like, that's all we got. Potatoes and turnip and pork. And that's it for 365 days a year.
My dad, we've been talking about it as recently as a few months ago. Like he said, they lived on meat and potatoes. He said oranges come around at Christmas. That was it.
Yeah.
And you look at the things that people are expecting, and you know, even the delusion of what they think is going to work, like shifting to all soy, all plant-based, avocados, almond milk. I remember hearing this guy talk, and it was some Harvard or Oxford professor saying if we would all just switch to a plant-based diet, we could use, and it was a tremendous amount, a huge percentage less farmland. And I always wanted to look that study up and find out, like, what numbers did he use? Because in my experience, limited, granted, in farming, any variety of grain, cereal, pulse, legume, whatever, oilseed, destined for the feed market out yields a human consumption variety by a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd die on that hill, and I'd take that argument any day. If I was going to go against an Oxford scholar, you got one sitting right here. So, okay, we all switch to a plant-based diet. If I grow a plant and I harvest that plant, what have I given back to the soil? Nothing. Nothing.
The little stem that you cut.
Well, whatever's left of the root that's going to degrade. But I've taken 75 to 80% of the carbon, the nitrogen, all the other minerals that root is harvested from the soil during its natural cycle, and I've taken it and used it for my own good usage. Now, how am I going to replenish that? Well, ask Monsanto, right? Ask Nutrien Ag Solutions. I'll ask all those guys. It's going to be a chemical process, which again is not sustainable. That's why there's so much action in European governments to get some of that stuff lowered down, because what they're not doing is they're not actually replacing organic material in the soil. So if you don't replace organic material in the soil, what does that do? Well, so you lose topsoil immediately. That's your immediate effect. Secondary is you have floods. Tertiary thing is that any carbon you have in the soil is rapidly released the minute you till it, right? Because it has no ability to keep it. And then nothing will grow in it. So then you have no way for any kind of cyclical carbon exchange to happen through photosynthesis. So you end up in a desert. You end up with, the Dust Bowl of the 1930s happening somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. So plant-based diet, it seems really good. And in the short-term duration, you certainly could, on a lower footprint. We've proved that with gardening, right? I can feed a family of 4 in a garden that's 200 square feet all year long. But if I simply just take from it and I never actually replenish any of that organic material, and I don't actually feed the soil what it actually needs, that's not going to be self-sustaining for very long, right? Now imagine you do that in a global case. We're not talking about 26 quarters now. We're talking about billions and billions and billions of hectares of land. And suddenly year 4, you have an El Nino or whatever come through, and you have mass flooding. You have a 45-degree temperature. Your soil has no cooling effect in it. It can't sustain any kind of water impact. So your crop, whatever doesn't wash away, blows away before you can even come through with a combine, right? Puts us in a pretty tight spot. So I think that's where the argument is that we need to consider changing the way we farm for sure. But certainly we can't stop doing what we're doing today. In fact, some of the things that we're doing today, definitely with like management of ruminants, small or large, like rotational grazing. There's a whole thing. Rotational grazing is what it was originally called. Now it's called regenerative agriculture, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, if you don't rotate some type of livestock and replenish that naturally, that's going to be tough. That's going to be really tough, right? You probably see that with your grain crop, right? Yeah. Like if you didn't fertilize every year, how many years do you think you could get grain off that land?
Yeah, well, and that's actually, we were talking about this quite a bit today. I was talking about pretty much everybody that came leading up to this live. You can't, no matter what, you cannot run a nutrient supplement deficiency in anything, in animals, in the ground, in anything.
No, that's right.
Now, the answer is how do you eliminate the deficiency? Do you just buy it? Because that's actually horribly inefficient.
Yeah.
Or do you figure out a way to have it somewhat self-replenish? Now, there is one thing that also, and back to that guy's study, how much of the land did he look at? There is a tremendous swath across the Midwest of the United States that is horrible land.
Terrible land, yeah.
In fact, and even in the middle of Alberta, the eastern side, there's quarters there. Their animal units are like 25 head per quarter.
Yeah.
When you get down into places like Idaho and stuff like that, there's areas there where it's like one pair per 160 acres.
Yeah.
There's just nothing there.
It's just like tumbleweed.
So that, and up here, because I was talking to my dad about this, and he said, the old timers used to joke that there was just 2 inches of leaf mold. There was no topsoil here ever. Then when they,
they're not wrong.
How they used to, like he said, the people that came from Europe, they had ag training and they knew what trees to look for, and they knew that's how the land got settled the way it got settled.
Yeah.
So the people, the smarter ones, they ended up with the better land because that's, and then as it got pushed further, coming with a lack of knowledge on how to clear it. So the topsoil that did exist was burnt off in most cases.
Yeah.
So you're already starting with a depleted soil anyways. And how do you wrap your mind around catch up where it's going to take you, maybe it'll take you a lifetime to regenerate this.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And I think, there's, especially here in the Peace Country too. I mean, we think we're on the prairie, right? But we're really not.
No.
A lot of this land was boreal forest and was suited to that. And that's what nature designed for it. And we come in with a D6 cat or whatever and start clear. Well, probably more than a D6, but back in the day, it'd be something small like that, right?
Like a
horse and a mule, and
And you prove up 10, and then the war come, and you couldn't get machinery still, so you waited until the 50s till you got machinery.
And I mean, once you get a big tractor like yours in there pulling a heavy disc, well, what's left?
And that is one unfortunate thing, and especially in the last couple of years here with commodity prices going the way they did, you're going to be hard pressed to find a farmer who's willing to risk cutting back production, because the years were so lean coming up to it. The country is new, right? I mean, even the land we farm, most of it, my dad had a hand in clearing. So it's not 1,000 years old.
No individual farmer is ever going to say, I'm going to do my bit, because the neighbor's not going to do their bit, right?
Absolutely.
Whatever high ground you take, somebody else is going to slip up underneath you.
And this is where, because I forget what live stream it was where we were talking about this, and this pushback on farmers, that people are going to start to find out the farmers really don't give a shit if you go hungry. They're trying to make a living.
Yeah, no, they're trying to survive.
This whole farmers feed the world, and I mean,
that's a feel good thing for Sunday mornings kind of thing.
It's a fluffy thing, but most of us are trying to make a living. However, on our farm, one case, we've upgraded to a precision drill, to a no-till drill, and we've started to run that application where we can to keep sequestered carbon in the ground. Right? These things are important, but the technology is really only getting there now.
Yeah, well, how long has zero-till been a thing? Like, popular?
Well, when we bought our Flexi Coil in 2006, and I believe it's about a 98 drill.
Yeah.
That was, so I guess around 98, they started to build the air drills. Of course, they were still shanks, still wide sweeps and things like that. But it was coming around. And the funny thing about it was never, I don't believe it was ever an environmental thing. It was a less trips thing. It was a time management thing.
Sure.
Instead of plowing and disking and cultivating.
Had nothing to do about
this has been one trip
in the atmosphere.
Right? Yeah. But now that we're learning about these things, and I didn't believe them or not, it certainly is efficient. All you have to do is jump on and do any amount of research at all, and you can realize that these methods will work over time.
Well, all you have to do is till a field under, and then don't spray it or don't seed a cover crop, and just watch what nature does. You'll have a cover crop in a hurry, but it'll all be thistle and mayweed and dandelion and all these other things that you really stinkweed and whatnot, right? So,
and see, that's another thing that needs to happen more. Is if you're going to use them efficiently, is established grasses need to be turned over, and grain fields need to be put back into things like clover and alfalfa and things like that. That's something that we've lost just due to the invention, or not the invention, but the mass use of fertilizers and chemicals.
Yeah.
Because no longer do we have to control weeds by nature and by way of doing these things. We just eliminate them now with copious amounts of Roundup and chemical and things like that.
Yeah.
And we grow our crops based on hundreds of tons and pounds of fertilizer.
Yeah, that's right.
And like you had said earlier, that's not a sustainable way to farm. It's just what we're doing now. And then now there's a shift with echelon and mapping technology to even precision place the fertilizer.
Yeah.
The fields don't get the same shot all over. The one thing about that is that technology is extremely expensive.
But see what I can't get over the fact that the government is so quick, regardless of where geographically where they're at, the government is so quick to regulate the farmer. But where else do they apply that regulation? Because it ultimately comes down to, like, the whole climate change ultimately comes down to a misalignment with individual choices. We're all doing our own thing, and we really don't give a shit what the next guy's doing. And we've never actually unified and said, okay, we're actually not since the 80s, right? With the CFCs, we haven't really done anything together as a planet to try and change anything. And there was no economic impact to the Montreal Protocol. There's no economic impact. Stop using CFCs and aerosols because we could just use propane and butane, right? Whatever. Ozone layer is fantastic. But now you start saying, okay, well, we're going to stop putting nitrogen. Well, what's that going to do to the North American economy? It's going to put it in the toilet.
I was going to say, we're going to find out.
We're going to find out.
Right.
We're going to be in the poorhouse. We're going to be hungry. And I think there's somebody to our well, they're further west than us, but we would call them east, big picture, that would do quite well, right? Because they've got the largest reserves they've ever had. Like China's got the largest reserves they've ever had since the Second World War.
And I don't believe they're planning on cutting any fertilizer
or
chemical use.
They have no interest whatsoever in cutting fertilizer use, in cutting any kind of greenhouse gas emissions, and cutting down any kind of industrial process. They are in an industrial golden age right now, right? And I think we need to be realistic and look at that and say, okay, well, what does agriculture really contribute to greenhouse gas emissions in the world? But what does it contribute to greenhouse gas emissions in our country? Because our country already has significantly lower greenhouse gas emissions per capita than anywhere else in the world. Farming contributes 8% to our national greenhouse gas emissions. So it's like, I mean, it's up there in terms, like, everything contributes so many percent. It's not like anything contributes 80% or anything like that, but it's a pretty low number from a country that already produces very, very little greenhouse gas emissions and is so close to being carbon neutral with, the mass forested area and the amount of water that we have, right? So I don't know. What does the folks at home think? Chad says the mixed farm should make a comeback, but I suspect it may be a cow guy and a grain guy rotating both of their land bases together. It's easier to specialize. You know what? That's growing up in the UK. That's what most of the farms were. Even the guys that were like dairy farms, right? Like, you usually, if you're here, you're in dairy, like you're exclusively in dairy. That's your jam. But over there, even the dairy guys they'd still dabble in beef, and they would plant a lot of grain too, just to and then you just rotate. Right. That's how you like that's a stacked enterprise, right?
Yeah.
Right. Not only is it a stacked enterprise, but it allows you to rotate and return organic material back to your soils, right?
Mhm.
So, wild. What do you think you'd ever say if somebody came to you and said, "I got all these cows, I'd like to run them on your high-priced canola field, and you can work under my pasture and plant some peas in there"?
Yeah, you know what? Like, because I really do believe that needs to happen. I would be game for it. The only thing is you start to look now at workload, right? So
Well, in dollars and cents.
is
right?
is it harder to load up 60 head of cattle and put them move them from one quarter to the other, or is it harder to hook up, an 8-bottom plow and spend 20 hours plowing and then disking and then reseeding and then it takes a lot to take land out of production. And in fact, we had the option to rent some land that was 20-year-old hay land, and I said, like, there's just no time. Like, we don't have employees, so in order to get out and work up that whole half, it's gonna be a year out. What you should do is spray it first and wait and then wait. I mean, so it's easier said than done, I guess. Like, it's just, it should be done, but in the land of $27 canola, who's going to waste the time right now? I don't know.
Yeah.
If it ever goes back to $8 and someone says, hey,
you'd have to be one of those crazy people that everybody just talks about the A&W to try and do that, right?
Well, pretty much. And then it would have to be on such a small scale. Like, you couldn't expect one farmer to take his 10 quarters out of production and go and work up 10 and try to bring them under production for a few years just in time to to do it over.
Sure.
It's tricky. But, like Chad was saying, if you had a mixed operation, then you definitely could. I mean, we have some marginal land that should be put back into some sort of a hayland, some sort of a pasture. But because we don't run cattle numbers are down. Cattle producers are getting older. They're not even looking for more ground.
Sure.
What are you going to do, right?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Carly, well, that's my daughter. She's on there tonight. My eldest daughter.
Oh, well, hello.
Says the manure served as good fertilizer. Yeah, that's absolutely true. One thing's a bit of a lost art because there's obviously chemical application of nitrogen fertilizers now. We lose a lot of the microbial activity that actually occurs in the soil, because microbial activity can't really feed off that chemical nitrogen, right?
No.
So we're not building any what are they called? Nematodes? I think that's what it's called. Nematodes is the predatory bacteria that come in and they fight off pathogens.
I will have to admit that's a new thing.
There's your soil science trivia question for the day. Nematode. So that's something that comes in, and they're a beneficial bacteria, and they're used to fight off pathogens in the soil. You find that in manure. Of course, manure helps to stimulate and feed not the soil so much as the mycorrhizal network within the soil. So mycorrhizal network is made up of fungi that exist below the soil surface, and they interconnect like a web. It's almost, if you ever see it actually on a microscope, it just looks like brain matter. So you've got a quarter section of land that's, say it's organic and it's never been tilled or not recently tilled, and it's had ruminants rotated across it, and you've been able to keep it from basically wilding itself. If you were to take a soil sample and you look at the mycorrhizal network from one corner of the field, you'll see that over here, what you do over here impacts soil or plant growth in the far corner, right? Because it's all connected.
This sounds like Avatar.
It sounds like Avatar. It really does. But believe it or not, it's true. That's why 150 years ago when people came through this country, yeah, native prairie grasses were 4, 5, 6 feet tall, right? Because it was all connected. It wasn't until somebody came through with a plow. Now, I mean, hell, last year we couldn't get our hay crop to grow more than 15, 16 inches.
Yeah.
And sparse and thin. It's just terrible, right? So, yeah, look it up. Nematodes, it's a thing. Mycorrhizal networks is a big thing. That's why there's a big push now in the gardening world to go no-till. You fight the weeds. There's a saying in England, actually, is if you spend 1 year digging, you're going to spend 7 years weeding.
Okay.
Right, because you're waking up. Anytime you till or you excavate, you wake up the soil, and the soil says, "Oh, I don't know about this. I probably should protect myself." And so then it pushes all those weed seeds forward, and it tries to, right? But in soil that's been tilled and tilled and tilled and tilled, and had numerous chemical applications across it, that soil can't protect itself. So what does it do? When we see very realistic weather patterns that we're having now, or such as drought, and maybe we get a whole bunch of rain in the spring, is that we just get massive soil erosion, right? Any kind of beneficial nutrients within the soil get washed out. That's why there's nitrates and dugouts, and fuck, it's a shit show, right?
Yeah, it is. I know my dad, like when I was a bit younger, I got frustrated. I said, I'm just gonna spray, desiccate it all. It's all just, he said, like, yeah, well, I mean, whatever. But he said the first thing that'll come back is weed. So that's not the best plan. Like it's a plan, but we got to think this through and actually have a legitimate plan on how we're going to attack this.
So we've had a few cigars go out over the time, hey? Now I read a thing the other day, actually in the book, that if I want to set the cigar down, or even if it goes out, what I should do is I should take and blow out all the stale smoke that's within the cigar before I relight it.
Interesting.
Otherwise, it could get bitter and not taste very good.
Well, that kind of makes sense, because the ones that go out, by the time you're getting down to the last third, your lips go numb. I wonder if that's part of the. But mine hasn't gone out yet.
I am getting a little stuffed up from this one, though. That's definitely the old.
You are, yeah.
The grain truck, right?
I can hear it. So then the other thing too, and I found this interesting when I was reading it, 47% of agricultural emissions are due to factory farming.
Interesting.
I also found it very interesting that 71% of bird species by mass are effectively chickens for slaughter.
That's a fact. Yeah.
That shocked me. And that's globally. That's a global thing. Like 71% of birds.
I can't remember what the number is, but it's in the billions. Like there's billions of chickens that get eaten in the U.S. alone every year.
I forget what I was watching. There's a whatever they call them in India, 7 million chickens a day.
Yeah.
Is what they process.
Yeah.
And it seems like a ridiculously large number. And I don't know the population of India, but it's a billion plus.
Oh, there's billions. Yeah.
So
I think they're 2 billion.
It's realistic to think in a place that doesn't eat beef.
Or maybe that's China. But
I think it'd be right in India, 1.5 or 1.8 or 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
But they don't eat beef, right?
Yeah, they don't eat beef, and a lot of them don't eat pork. In
a place that doesn't eat beef, your meat protein options are now basically fish, lamb and goat, pork. If you can do it,
there's a huge portion of India that doesn't eat pork,
and then just chicken.
Yeah.
So to feed 2 billion people.
Well, do you think there's some shit we haven't heard of?
As far as
like for another alternate meat source, like there's a species maybe we're not aware of.
I wouldn't think so, but probably possible.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
I just got rid of a llama today. Apparently, they taste pretty good.
Yeah,
I just thought I was
put some HP sauce on the old llama.
I guess.
How many hours on the smoker would that be?
In Peru, they eat them or whatever. So I guess if you got them, you eat them.
Well, yeah, they'd be so fucking obstinate. No wonder you'd eat them. I'm sure they do eat them in Peru.
But anyways,
long neck donkey.
So in this thing, it was talking about, ruralizing people, because we need to get people back to the country. These really densely populated areas are actually doing a disservice. And the funny thing is, and you see this all the time on different memes and stuff on social media, you have the person walking down the street with skyscrapers behind them. It's smog and shit everywhere, and there's garbage on the streets, and they're pointing their finger at the guy standing in his garden with his chicken, and the blue sky and the green hills behind him, and there's a cow over there eating grass, and maybe he's got a tractor off to the side, and then, pointing at you like you're the problem.
You're the problem because you're cow farts, right?
Right, and you have to think, like, is this person for real? And I think a lot of, like, realistic people, they do give it some thought. Maybe not a lot. Maybe right away they're like, no, that's garbage. But you give it thumbs. You give it some, and you think, like, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Could we do a little better? And then when you see it around, that's why we have animals. We have 14 acres of mixed bush and whatever that they used to have cattle there.
Yeah,
it kind of going to waste. So what better thing to do to keep it managed? Put 8 cows, 30 chickens.
Yep.
A llama. I didn't want the llama.
Keep the fire hazard down at best, right?
Eat the grass.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it even through the drought of the last 2 years. Now it's 14 acres. Maybe let's say there's 5 acres that's open. The rest is bush.
Yeah.
With 10 pigs running around rooting through the bush and the 10 cows. I don't know. There was no.
Did you let your pigs out in the bush? Did you get that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we put 2 wires around the bottom of the 14 acres.
Did you keep moving them, or you just let them?
I let them go for the whole 14 acres.
They had a big area,
Yeah.
big area.
They were all out together. The chickens with the cows, with the pigs, with the horse. With everything.
Pigs never ate the chickens. We had that one year because we had 5 pigs in there, and as you do when you're feeding pigs, you maybe spill a little bit of grain here and there, and so the chickens, being chickens, come over like, oh, maybe I'm going to clean that up. Well, look just over the fence there. There's a whole big feeder full of that fancy looking feed that probably tastes. It's the same feed that feed the chickens is what we're feeding the pigs. But oh boy, that forbidden fruit sure looks good. Chicken hopped over there, and the pigs made short work of that chicken.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I was reading about it because I was worried, and I thought, well, maybe, and they said, like they did say, pretty much once a dog eats a sheep, right? They don't lose that taste.
Yeah.
And I guess once a pig eats a chicken, they don't lose that taste either.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's kind of weird because I guess in my mind I have it played out on how this is going to work, and it kind of seems to.
Yeah.
You bring some little wiener pigs in, and they're only this big.
Yeah.
And they're from day one. They're in the 14 acres. I don't ever
never left there, right? Yeah.
And they'll go in the chicken coop and eat the chicken feed.
Oh, really?
Or like live with the chickens.
Yeah.
If it's raining outside or windy.
Interesting.
And then out they go. And we've definitely lost some chickens, but
or some folks won't even keep cats in their chicken house because they're scared they're going to get eaten.
No, we don't have, like, the dogs go in there, the pigs go in there. When the big doors open, the steers, when they're small enough to fit, they'll go in there.
Yeah. That's good.
It's hard on feed, but
you got to feed them anyways, right?
It is what it is, right? So
yeah.
And you see it all living. Actually, the old Jeremy Clarkson, his season 2 is just on now. I watched it last night. One of them.
He's not getting season 3 though.
No.
You been watching Clarkson's Farm? I
watched the first season. I thought it was awesome, and I just watched 2 episodes of this next season.
It's just interesting to watch a guy that has endless resources, right? Because he's money out the yin yang, but so utterly incompetent. And it reminds me of some of the mistakes I made, but just wasn't able to just work out with money, right?
Yeah.
But just to watch, I find it comedic, right? But yeah, he's here recently said a few inappropriate or questionably inappropriate things about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and so he's been.
I haven't made it to that yet. Or was that on his show, or was that just in public?
I think it was in public, and now he's just been canceled. So
that's terrible.
Which he's always been a fairly outspoken guy and just said some really controversial things, but
That's unfortunate.
What
because
sometimes
I actually quite enjoyed.
sometimes you
Clarkson
just need to
Farms.
say things to rustle some feathers, but going after the British royal family is probably a career limiting move.
But he's
right?
not the only one that says it. Old Pierce Morgan's been blasting him for 2 years now. And he's still up on this horse.
Yeah, I mean, he's for folks that don't know who Piers Morgan is, he's the Tucker Carlson of the
He
UK, right? Like,
But he hasn't been
Yeah.
fancy yet.
he's like a poster child for toxic masculinity, I guess. But
I don't
but he
know.
makes a point many a time, whether you agree with him or not. He's an articulate speaker, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, we still got retained a bit of an audience, anyways.
Yeah, 8 folks on. I think I'm
Yeah.
trying to get this.
Bands.
Yeah, it's a double band, and I'm trying to. This bottom one's loose, and it could slide right off. So I'm thinking about this upper band, but I can't even see where
They're amazing, eh? For
Like,
anybody
they
any-
joined it.
Anybody that doesn't understand how Canada bland, they're bland in their cigars. That's what Canada ships you.
Yeah,
on the
that
cigar.
olive green, military green cover.
And that's
Because-
that's what the rest of the world gets to enjoy.
Because 14-year-old boys are going to see this fantastic artwork and suddenly want to smoke cigars,
So when you're drinking out of your cardboard water box bottle
drink type
thing, you can think that this is some plasticky material too. This isn't even paper. So why
Yeah.
do they make these and they're okay to cover up something, but yet we can't have straws? The stupidity, right?
Did you know?
Is shocking.
Did you know that this isn't plastic?
I didn't.
I mean, they call it cellophane, but it's actually a porous. It's still plastic, but it's not like sealed plastic. It's actually porous material to allow your cigar to breathe. So there's a whole debate in the cigar world about whether you should put your cigars in the humidor and take the cellophane off,
Okay.
or leave the cellophane on. And so the bouquet, the aroma that comes with your cigar, if you take the cellophane off, will just amalgamate between whatever you have in the humidor, right?
Okay.
So anytime we get one with the wrapper on, or the cellophane on, try and keep it wrapped so that it can retain some of its original bouquet, right? So
Interesting.
yeah, it is a good cigar, but man, I have gotten stuffed up from this thing. So it is, as Chad said, you can almost taste the hantavirus in the smoke from that cigar. Yeah, it's definitely like
I'm digging it.
snorting a rail off the backseat of a grain truck for
But
sure.
we've had a couple of those where like
There, slipped it off.
Saturday is just a write-off on our Friday night live streams. We've had a couple of them where just headache,
Headache, and you
like,
can't breathe the next day. And
right away people, oh, you drank too much. But like I said, we've never finished a bottle.
No, we usually what maybe 2-3 drinks.
So
I think there's only one
over
live
about
stream.
4 or 5 hours because
I think there's only the one live stream we've done where I've actually had a fat head the next day.
was that the first one?
No, that was you. Yeah, you got into the rum that day for sure, but I can't remember what we were having that one night. It was something spicy, anyways. Maybe the Balvenie, because that was good. You want this thing that's got more butane in it?
I might. Well, that's the one fire. Mine went out for the first time.
Now I gotta puff like crazy to get it going again.
So that's that. That's the farmer's responsibility to global climate change. And that's with anything. So we had talked about this too before. I really do believe that industry, and there's young people coming up all the time with great ideas, and they're figuring stuff out, making batteries bigger and stronger and smaller and last longer, and whatever needs to happen. We're doing different things where we're getting lithium out of abandoned wells, and so this is all happening. But to come up with the idea that we should just stop right now, I just find that such an unintelligent statement to make.
Well, there really is. You see even the protests around the oil and gas industry, right? There's a whole movement now, Stop Oil, and these fruitcakes are out there splashing orange paint all over the museums and stuff as a protest, and it's like, are you out of your mind? Like half the shit you're wearing is made out of oil. Like,
right.
Like.
Right, and it's funny, like even the hemp industry, where like a lot of these people go, oh, we can get our clothes and we can make this, and the commercial
Do you realize
hemp industry,
how much petroleum the hemp industry uses?
It's tricky. I was even looking up, because one year, I went through the whole motion. I was going to grow some because apparently we have a decent enough.
Yeah, you got a good climate for it, for sure.
To do this. So yeah, you can get the hemp seeds or whatever, and those go for human consumption. And then you can also get the fibers, which go. They say they make everything out of them.
So, like the hemp seeds that I buy from the health food stores, you can grow them or what?
From what I understand, in this, I believe it's called Finola. That's the variety of hemp that the seed is human consumption seed.
Yeah,
it's a shorter thing, but then the fiber is viable as well. So it's baled and it's shipped to. I want to say it's something like Drayton Valley or something where they actually had a plant to do this, and they were making like the food tray at a hospital, maybe made out of hemp.
Maybe they can make some drinking straws out of hemp. So that stupid freaking toilet paper.
Car panels and stuff. Apparently, some of them are made of hemp or have hemp products in them. So
car bumpers, really?
Yeah, that's what the guy was telling me, and I was like, well, that's just fascinating, because not only do you I think it was last year, or maybe even this winter season, I was talking to the guy. He said, well, what we do now is we actually bring the facility to your field.
Yeah.
To, I don't know if to make the bale or whatever, but it's out.
Sure.
So my point is the technology is getting there. People are doing things.
Yeah.
And they're moving in the right direction. Not everybody is stuck in the way of, no, it's got to be a 4-bottom plow, and we got to plow after we harvest, and we got to, like, not everybody's like, there's a few guys really stuck in the old ways. But most people are excited about the new technology. The only thing limiting is finance.
But yeah, like I think like the folks that want to stop what we're doing today in order, to do something tomorrow are really, really short-sighted. They don't realize that what we're doing today is what allows us to progress to whatever we're going to do tomorrow, right? Like we can't get to battery-operated vehicles without the use of petroleum products. Like if you bought a $100,000 Tesla, sure, it's got this $65,000 lithium battery in the back of it, but 80% of that car is made out of plastic, which comes from petroleum.
And 100% of the exploration and mining of the lithium was done with
diesel-powered engines, right? So it's not the chicken or the egg. Like you have to have one before you have the other, and so you have to use the other in order to get to the next one.
Well, and I had talked about that too, like that article that I read. And I was looking for it, and I did find it again, and actually there was quite a bit more scenarios like that. But apparently the gentleman that built the first internal combustion engine never used an internal combustion engine. He rode a horse his whole entire life.
Yeah, that's right.
That was what was available to him at the time to get back and forth to town to get the parts that he needed.
Nobody cared about horse farts then.
Right? And it's just like you're saying, the man who builds, or the person who builds the next great technology will only be able to do so because they're using the technology that exists today.
That's right.
These people have to be able to get to network, to get around.
Yeah.
It has to happen. So you're absolutely right to say we got to stop today to do something tomorrow. It's just stupid.
But it is very, very foolish. And what we need to do is have continuous improvement, right? Sustained continuous improvement, maybe even accelerated continuous improvement, which we should be able to do, because let's be honest, since the discovery of electricity, even as an energy source, our progression, you look at your parents, right? The things they grew up with versus the things we grew up with versus the things our kids grew up with. Like the technological renaissance that we're living in is just phenomenal, right? Exponential growth in technology development.
Yeah.
Right. If we stop that today, we would be back in the dark ages very, very quickly.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And hungry.
Well, yeah, and they make those claims all the time, right? I mean, if we were to have, if A happens, B will be short behind it. And I really do believe that. I mean, we kind of seen it over the last 3 years with several things, that as soon as an ounce of hysteria, it's just ballooned into, it becomes a problem in itself. But
Well, what is it? What is it? It says in the good book there. I saw a pale horse, and behold, following behind him came death. Right. So, if we're going to open up that can of worms and make foolish choices, we're going to have to bear a fool's consequences, right? What did we miss here for comments? That booze is rough when you can't finish a bottle. Well, I don't think it's rough that we can't finish a bottle. I think we could, but I think if you drank a whole keg of beer,
there's
like it's not like a Coors Banquet. Like this is
there's
46%, right? So
there's two collectors. There's two kinds of collectors that talks about in the book. There's those who buy a bottle and they put it on the shelf and they never open it, and those who buy a bottle and they try it and then they put it on the shelf.
I think we fit firmly in the second one.
And because the third is just a guy that drinks.
That's an alcoholic.
Right? The guy who buys it and finishes it, you're just sort of like just a guy that drinks scotch.
No, I think we're in it to appreciate it.
It looks cool.
And it does look cool, but when we first got into this, my experience with scotch had been limited to Arthur Bell's. I had a bad experience with Arthur Bell's when I was still in the UK. Actually, it was right before I came to Canada. My boss at the time, Robert Baird was his name. He owned Walpole Farm. I milked cows there. And it was myself, him. So I was like 18 years old, it was him. And then this short little guy. He wasn't a dwarf, but he was like, legally, it was questionable. And his name was Tom Jones, like the singer, like, what's up, pussycat? It's Tom Jones, right? And we finished 2.5 bottles of Arthur Bell's scotch, which Arthur Bell's scotch is like, it's we would call it $30 a bottle scotch. Like, it's not good, but I mean, it does the job, right? I don't know if it's in there.
It might be.
You can get some real good stuff that Bell's makes, but they also make some.
Who makes it, eh?
Well, it's Bell's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Bell's Distillery. But
Bell's.
Yeah, the cheaper stuff is pretty rough, right? And I remember my dad was texting me like, "Hey, where are you at?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm still at the farm." And so then he actually came out to come and get me, and I tried to get on my bicycle because I used to bike to work twice, like there and back on my bicycle. I swung my leg over the seat of my bike and I went straight over the other side like a fucking acrobat. Just cartwheeled that shit. Landed on the ground, and my old man's just like shaking his head, like so proud right now. Puts the bike in the trunk of the car, and I get in the passenger seat, and we're taking this back road from Kirkbride to Abbeytown, and it's this typical English countryside back road. Like every 50 feet, there's a 90-degree turn. That's just like. And I've got a belly full of scotch, like a belly full. And needless to say, I said, looked over at the old man. I said, "I'm going to puke." He said, "Not in my car, you're not." I said, "You need to stop." "I'm not stopping." "Well, I need to puke." "Not in my car, you're not." So I opened the door and just let her rip at 35 miles an hour, right? All down the side of his car, puked all over the whole thing. So I ended up spending the weekend washing the old boy's car. And I think after that, I maybe had 2 or 3 drinks of scotch between then and this time last year. And it actually has been a year now that we've been doing this. Eh?
A year.
It's been a year. Yeah, crazy to think. But I've actually developed a really good appreciation for a good glass of scotch.
It is a really cool drink. There's quite a bit to it, right? I mean, we've been doing research, I guess, now for a year, just on it.
Yeah,
how it's made, what makes it good, what makes it scotch, and
here's relight number 2.
It is It is an incredible drink.
It was funny because at Christmas time, I took that bottle of Glendronach to my in-laws. Let's have a glass of scotch at Christmas time, and watch my 62 or 63-year-old father-in-law just like he just drank battery acid or something. Eh? It was pretty funny, to watch a guy that should have, this rough and tumble truck driver guy should have a fairly mature palate. You think he'd be able to? Yeah. Drinks beer and clam. Can't drink a whiskey though.
Canadian Club straight out of the bottle.
Yeah. Better
I've only had one
retoast
really
this.
like it, and I actually haven't been nervous of the ash falling off.
Oh, I haven't been nervous of the ash, no, but definitely you stop to chat for too long, and
well, it seems to be plaguing you a little bit more than it's getting me. Although I can start to feel it now.
maybe I'm talking too much.
So
I got
what
that
did
too
you say?
hot.
You said an hour and a half burn time. What are we?
Hour
at?
and 45 minutes, I think it was
45?
supposed to be. So we're an hour and 20. But of course, I mean, that's if a guy's sitting and just enjoying the smoke, and you're not engaging in, a lot of conversation. So we're probably halfway, thereabouts. Maybe a little more.
I might be knocking on the last third here.
Yeah. Chad says he's not a connoisseur of much. Sitting here drinking Lucky beer, chewing on a pork rind. That Lucky Lager, man, that stuff kept me alive for years while I worked on the rigs. That was $24 to get you a flat of Lucky Lager. If you're in camp, you could, did quite well. He says he's a rye guy though. Loves the rye. Those bottles disappear when company comes over. That's a good thing too about Scotch, is you can just have a bottle of Scotch, and generally you don't have to share too much of it.
Yeah,
And if somebody takes an interest, I mean, it's pretty easy to pour them pretty much anything. You don't have to pour them $100 bottle of Scotch. You can pour them a $40 Scotch.
Yeah, there's quite a
and they'll probably turn their face up and say, "Oh, I still hate it," and
almost like
it
a
won't be out
noteworthy collection now. Something you can talk about, because there's a lot of bottles back there now.
Yeah.
A couple more shelves to fill. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So
might have to build like wrap around. Do the wrap around. Comes to hard stuff, it's rye. Got into 40 Creek lately. Pretty good stuff. Weisers. I do actually have a bottle of Weisers back here. Weisers Deluxe. I don't know if that's any good. I haven't cracked that one yet. Maybe we'll have to have a rye night one night.
we were going to do that. If we were to can of rum too, but
that's actually really good. I was at a convention. Well, I sent you a picture of that one time. Sent you a convention, and the folks were drinking that Florida can, and it is actually really good.
it is quite good, yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I mean, the thing when you end up with the stuff like Captain Morgan's and other and then cheaper ryes and stuff, you end up with very few people sip those, so it's a bunch of Pepsi and then
Captain Morgan's is 90%
such a
Pepsi, and
nightmare.
you're just throwing it down.
Whereas I'm sure every time a bell rings and Angel gets its wings, I'm pretty sure every time somebody puts something into Scotch, probably something somewhere dies.
Yeah,
I just don't think you do that. Drop of water.
Drop of water.
Maybe a cube of ice.
That's it. Yeah.
But
And only with the harshest ones can you really put ice in, right?
I don't know if there's any. We haven't encountered anything yet that said to add anything else. I don't think.
There was a couple that said it was permissible to add a pipette of water.
Of water, but nothing.
But
there's no juices or no.
Sodas.
Or
Let's put lemonade in with this or whatever. No.
Which is the other thing, right? When you pour 2 fingers, you're pretty much good for 2 hours, unless you're stand.
Which, speaking of that, I think it's time because I'm stuffed up a little bit. I'm getting a tickle.
Well, you dedicated some more time to the drink.
A tickle.
Dedicated
What
3/4 of an inch to the cigar.
What I have achieved in whiskey, you've made up for in cigar. So,
which is the case often.
I'm a better drinker. You're a better smoker, perhaps.
I guess so.
Would you like a top up since the open?
I'd have a splash more, sure.
Yeah. What was the best brand of Scotch you've had so far? Well, I mean, we've all got our favorites, but what I think I could guess what yours is.
It's the red, the bright red box. No, that's the cigar malt. The dark red box.
The
Hands down.
The Dalmore 12 year.
Hands down.
That's
was.
it. Eh?
I don't. That's one of the originals too.
That was one of the very first ones.
But and it's not just because of the cool bottle. You should actually bring that out. I'll take the bottle out.
Yeah, show the folks at home. That is a cool bottle, and the story behind it is so amazing.
It was you had done that.
Well, I mean, it's so intertwined with the history of Scotland, right?
So that's the bottle. I don't know if you said if it goes close, it goes blurry, but it's a very cool bottle.
Yeah, with the Dalmore stag on the bottle.
It's well, like I had said it off the start. I don't know if I said this, but I thought just by the notes that they would be similar in color, and I would say they're pretty close. So
them side by side.
I'm getting the guy's getting there.
Pretty close.
Some of this is sinking in.
And so this is now, and this happens. I think if you take your first swig of whiskey or Scotch, and it's that tastes like pure gasoline. But if you slow yourself down and you can just appreciate, and you let it roll around in your mouth, and you let those flavors kind of come to life, you can actually get a bit of an appreciation for it. And now that I'm on the second glass, it is a good whiskey. It definitely is. It's not the Dalmore for sure. The Dalmore is much more complex in terms of spice. When you talk about 5 spice, like you can literally pick out the nutmeg, the cloves, all of that stuff, right? The fruit cake that's in the Dalmore, not to mention just it's almost like plums or.
It is, yeah. I was just looking.
It's very, very fruity whiskey. Right? Like the first time we had that, I was like, you smell the cork and you're like, it almost reminds me of a rich red wine.
Yeah,
right.
Very much so, and that's that sherry cask. So
yeah,
and actually, I don't think we've had that twice, so that just shows how much we drink out of it. I don't think we did it on 2 live streams.
Did we have that twice?
We had it at an after party.
Oh, you know what? You're probably right. We had a sip of that, and there was the Dalmore cigar malt as well,
which I do want to get back into that one again because I
didn't find that was it like even really like on the same level as it was a much more expensive whiskey, but I think it was better than that one.
But once you have this, you really want to go down the Dalmore road.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's fairly expensive.
Yeah, it's $100 a bottle, right? Like
but as we cruise down to the 50 year, is that a 50 year?
There's a 50 year,
and then there's I think it's like 60,000 pounds.
Yeah, it'd be like $130,000. Yeah,
that's
just set that
someday
down.
Maybe.
Yeah, there was that, and then what else was really good up there?
Well, the gentleman,
the Balvenie,
the chair guy.
Yeah,
he was a fan of that.
Yeah, he recommended that, and that was actually top shelf for sure. I really like that. The Glenlivet 15, that was quite exceptional. Some of the Aberlour, the Isla Journey, I don't know, they were kind of middle of the road for me. They were good, but they weren't exceptional.
There is an undeniable difference between the peat that comes with those. So the Laphroaig, that it's an acquired taste too. The Laphroaig, I think, was the first Scotch we drank.
No, it was Glenfiddich. You brought the Glenfiddich, and I brought the Laphroaig, and we tried the Glenfiddich first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the Laphroaig was the most repulsive thing I'd ever tried in my entire life. The first, but now I don't mind the peat. I don't think that's a start for somebody. You should start.
You definitely wouldn't want to start there, and
no.
if you did, even if you're a well-established Scotch drinker, and then suddenly you were to go to something that was heavily peated like that, you would want to pace yourself because you could turn yourself off pretty quick. And so when we went to that Scotch tasting in Grand Prairie,
I'm going to do your 10,000-year-old water. This is 10,000-year-old water. Also,
10,000 come right.
Has graciously supplied.
That water fell as snow on the Athabasca Glacier in the Columbia ice fields 10,000 years ago, and is now, due to climate change, probably not because of cow farts, probably because of the Brewster's buses that keep running up and down there
and rolling over,
that it's now coming off as meltwater. So last time we were there several years ago, I happened to get a bottle of it and freeze it. And now I just got it in this little crystal bottle for a little drop or two in the whiskey if needed.
And if anybody is curious if that makes a difference, it makes 100% difference in the Scotch.
Yeah, and just a drop too. You don't want to water it down, right? You just want to,
even visually, it will change.
You want to mute some of the harshness, right?
It's amazing to watch it get cloudy and then disperse into its whole chemical reaction or whatever takes place. But it definitely changes it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna set this back down here.
So that was mine. The question was, what are your favorites? So what's your favorite up there?
Well, I think I would have to agree that the Dalmore 12 is there. And I think second best would definitely be the Balvenie Double Wood. I would have to go with that. It's also a sherried Scotch, right? Like, yeah, it's good stuff. So,
and as far as if anybody was curious as the worst, I can't even say it's up there now. I had bought over the holidays. I had bought one actually at a co-op liquor store, and it was $30 a bottle, and it was not very good.
No way.
I mean, in no way am I an expert, but you could. I believe you could tell. Like a lot of people.
What breed was that?
I can't remember. I'm gonna have to. I'll have to find another bottle and bring it here so we can try.
So we can both be discussed at the same time.
Well, like you'll talk to like certain wine people that really believe they could taste a $700 bottle of wine over a $40 bottle or a $20 bottle.
Sure.
And then you'll talk to those who think that if you put a $20 bottle of wine into a $700 bottle, nobody can tell the difference. I really do believe that you can tell the difference between a cheap Scotch and an expensive Scotch.
Yeah.
And maybe one day, and even at the Scotch tasting, they showed you the prices of them all, and a lot of the ones that got X's from us were basically cheap.
Yeah.
That being said, I think there was a $118 bottle there that was absolutely repulsive.
There was a few terrible ones.
I know where it even was, right? It was over just 3 down on the far corner.
We did try that one that was $270 a bottle, and that was actually quite good. But as soon as you learn the price of it, suddenly it kind of sours in your mouth, right? But Ardbeg was the one that I really wanted to try there, and we don't have a bottle of that because that was an absolute garbage fire. Like that was like straight burnt muskeg is all that was. So I'll take my Laphroaig, and that's as peaty as I want to get. But yeah, holy man, we missed a whole pile of comments here. I gotta scroll back here. Silk Tassel's pretty rough. 10 Rise in, I'll drink that too. Fred's looking for his pillow if he's got 10 Rise in him. Yeah. I don't tie into it 90% as often as I did when I was younger anymore. More of a social drinker now. Yeah, I think before we started this, I wouldn't even have called myself a social drinker. And I still wouldn't even call myself a social drinker. This is pretty much the sum total of this.
16 times a year, not even 14 times a year.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Yeah. Well, we should try and do this every couple of weeks if we can, because the humidor needs more attention.
It's just
For
it's
sure.
just kind of amazing how it went. Like when we started this, I mean, you had a new baby, and
Yeah.
then, so there was
Now you do.
that going on, and then we get right into, you were busy with work, you had a lot of stuff going on there, and then the spring came, and then we had just a beautiful summer, like just
Gorgeous
everything
summer.
you ever wanted to do on your list
Yeah.
could have got done.
Yeah.
And then as fall hit, you realized how lazy of a sack of shit
Didn't
you were and
do
didn't
shit.
get any of it done. Then the depression fell in. So there was a few weeks there where you didn't feel like you could earned anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was. It's been an interesting ride.
Yeah.
But and then even this winter, I mean,
Because what is this? This is 16, right?
I don't. Is it 16 on Smoke and Oak, or is it 16 in total? It must be 16 in total.
I don't even remember.
Because I know. Well, I was looking back because I got them on my phone. It must be 16 in total. Because Jeremy was the first winner, and we had done that one.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. We didn't even do a giveaway for the first few, so maybe it's 16.
That could be.
I don't even remember.
We might have to go back and retally. But Jeremy's got his own YouTube channel now. I see.
got
Eh? Yeah, I just subscribed the other day. Jeremy Cherney.
It's amazing the connections you make from YouTube. It truly is. Like, I mean, I was doing that carb. It was kind of funny too, but I just texted him right away. I was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, what the hell
Like,
even is this?
This carb has 3 electrical wires running to it. This
Yeah.
carb has no electrical wires running to it. Right? This one won't. There's no rev limiter. And so he explained it all. And
Yeah.
I think we got it. So
Huh.
saved me a mechanic bill.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's funny. So the other day, bit of a change of subject, but just thinking about like saving money. The other day, we were leaving the house, and Carmen's just got to vacuum a little bit of the floor because there was, young kids, there's fucking Cheerios or whatever everywhere, right? Because Finley's at that age where it's fun for food to be on the floor and not in her stomach, right? So shit everywhere, right? So Carmen she goes to vacuum, ooh, and then the vacuum quits. And then we left. And I didn't realize the vacuum quit until we got home. And she's like, "Oh yeah, no, the vacuum doesn't work," or whatever. Damn, I wish I would have known about that before we left, because I would have gone, like, if an electrical appliance quits working while you're using it, you probably don't want to leave the house. You probably want to go unplug that thing, right? Just
Put it outside.
just in case something catches on fire. Like, that'd be really embarrassing if my house got on fire, of all people, right? So, anyways, doesn't matter. It never caught on fire. Come home, it's not working, and she's like, "Oh, like, what are we gonna do?" Like, I was like, "Yeah, these things are like $3,000. We got this with a gift card. Well, I think we paid for half of it with a gift card from our wedding in 2013. So this is its second house now. This vacuum, central vac, actually is what it is, big central vac." And I said, "Well, I'm going to take it apart. I'm going to figure out like what's going on with it, and if it's FUBAR, then it's FUBAR. But like, I want to know." She's like, "Well, it's not really a priority," and I'm like, "Well, you say it's not a priority right now, but like, give it 3 days of Cheerios on the
Until
floor."
we're waiting
Or
Cheerios.
like, yeah, and that's what it was today. Like, she was like, "I can't find the dustpan," and yeah, you can't be in the house without shoes because there's just shit all over the floor. And anyway, so I brought it in the shop and took it all apart. And this $3,000 vacuum cleaner, the motor's gone out of it. Actually, just the brushes have gone out of the motor, actually, which I could replace if I really wanted to take the time. But the motor's got 13 years on it, so I'm going to replace the whole motor. $125 to buy a new motor.
Mhm.
How many people would just throw that whole unit in the garbage and
Yeah.
just go buy a new one?
Way too many people.
Right? So there's my cost saving tip. If it's already broken, it's not costing you any money while it's broken. Take it apart. You'd be shocked at how.
Same thing on a YouTube video that I had done.
Yeah,
You really there's no risk of breaking it once it already doesn't work. So
That's
you may as
right.
well find out what's inside.
it's quite literally 2 screws, 3 bolts, 2 wires, and a gasket. So
I get a big kick out of keeping shit out of the dump.
yeah, it's awesome.
Like, a big kick. We got this Husqvarna lawnmower.
The Rhino.
That is, oh shit. That thing must be early 90s. Still runs.
That's awesome.
I mean, the wife curses it because we keep it running.
Yeah.
But
you'd be cursing payments if you had them too.
Well, I mean, my dad and I actually, we do it now like for fun because it drives them nuts that this thing can still run.
Yeah.
I mean, it should have been finished. We used to use it when I was younger, just like a race car.
Yeah.
Driving around, driving over shit, driving over roots and whatever. It just was thunder.
Yeah.
But some new blades, some new spindles. Found a new deck off a Craftsman.
Little TLC.
Had to cut some shit off and weld some shit on, but it even cuts level.
But that's crazy too. Like even like in the parts world, how many parts? Okay, you might paint it orange, or you might paint it green, or you might paint it blue or red or whatever on the exterior. But how many parts are actually interchangeable, made by the same manufacturer? Is crazy too.
Well, it is. I mean, it used to be better. Now it's ridiculous how
there's a little less. There's a little less right to repair now than ever there was.
I mean, we're finding this from even in the same model year of tractor, shit won't fit. Oh, like they'll ask, "What's your serial number break?" Because this hose won't fit. Then that only fit for the first 1,000 tractors we made, but it doesn't fit on the next 1,000. And a lot of times, I believe it's because they're rated. And somebody, I had done a TikTok about engineers hating mechanics. Essentially, is what it was about. And the guy said it's not even that; it's accountants. You should hate accountants because accountants are driving these companies to build it cheaper, cheaper. So, what they're doing, I believe that this is what they're doing. They're building it as shitty as possible off the start, and as it fails, then the upgrades come out. This hose doesn't work, so we have to get a better hose. And then not only does it have to be better, but it has to be, if it's a hard line, it has to be bent a different way than the first one, and rooted a different way. So now the shit doesn't fit.
This guy I know is a mechanic. He said, "There's no money in sales. Like you build a vehicle, you build a machine or whatever, then you sell that machine. There's only so much margin, right, for your profit. The money's not in the sale. The money's in the repairs afterwards. It's the ongoing parts and just keeping it running."
When Dragon's Den was in its infancy, I don't think I'll ever forget that. That one guy, he thought he was going to save the world. He had this razor that was a little bit narrower, and the guy told him, he said, "The money isn't in the shaver; it's in the blades."
Yeah,
I gotta keep buying more new blades.
Yep.
Right, you don't just take it with a leather strap and sharpen it and go to town.
Yeah,
you go to Costco and you buy a pack at like $95.
Yeah,
of 42 blades that give you 3.5 shaves.
3.5 shaves, and then you're cutting your face off.
Right?
Yeah,
and you're running now with red marks all over your lips, and because you're too cheap to change it because it ends up being $6 a shave.
It's funny you mention that. So, because I use an electric razor because I got really sensitive skin. Like I've had eczema my whole life, right? So an actual like bladed razor is a rough deal for me. I'm pretty soft that way. So I run an electric razor. About years ago, one of the kids spilled like Scentsy, like the wax, those wax pots on top of my electric razor, and my wife was there, or anyhow, somehow she took the blame for it. And she's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. Like, I'll just buy you a new one." And I literally just put the head in hot water and melted it. She would have gone out and spent, I don't know, $140 on a whole new electric razor at the time. And like, just fix it. Just make it right. And run for, and this is now, well, that was probably 2012 or 2013. So it's like 10 years ago, right? Still running.
Well, you can keep things going. I mean, that's a whole personality thing, right? I mean, we laugh about that with rental properties. You'll find that if you have a rental property, which we don't, but we hear stories about them all the time. Within a few months, the fridge don't work, the shitter don't work, the sink it leaks, the washer and dryer leaks. And my dad and I talk about this here. Because he knows some people with rental properties. His house they bought in 1980, I don't know, 80 something. Early 80s anyways. they've never redone their ensuite. So it's all
Just from personal, like I own it, I'm going to take care of it, right?
They have the first dishwasher they ever bought in that house. And now they were late to get a dishwasher, so it's a stainless steel one. It's not one of them older ones, but they have the same dishwasher.
You ever see those rage rooms where you just like pay, go and smash it? I think that's what rental properties are. Like somebody pays for the privilege to break all your shit.
Put holes in every single wall.
Yeah, fuck up your walls, make all the doors, the hinges are messed up, nothing lines up.
Break every single
Rip the cupboard doors off. Yeah, the banisters is a real bad one.
Peel up the linoleum.
Yeah.
It is amazing. And you think like that's true. Like everybody, they're if they have rental property, they're always doing something. They're going to fish something out of the furnace or relight the furnace or replace the furnace or right. I mean, they have the original furnace in their house. Never upgraded it.
That was actually why we got that vacuum cleaner, It's because when we bought our first like actual house, not a trailer, but like an actual house in Beaver Lodge, it had a central vac, but it was a rental property and they had cats. When you fired up that vacuum cleaner, the vacuum was in the garage. And you would swear that a dirty old bum pissed on the fucking couch. That's what it smelled like. You walk in the garage, it smelled like a bum pissed on the couch. And then it sat in a greenhouse and like heated up. And that's why Karma said, no, like we're going to use this gift card. Like, I don't know. There's so many more things we could have spent, whatever, $1,500 on at that time because we were poor. Like we were fucking poor. Buying our first house together. But we're not vacuuming with this, hobo piss fucking vacuum cleaner. So we kept that. We kept that old vacuum cleaner. I moved it over and I used it to vacuum vehicles out. Vacuum the floor mats, whatever in the garage. And you'd be in there, you'd be vacuuming, whatever, fucking goldfish crackers and shit off the floor mat, and just gagging, right? Because it fucking stinks. Yeah.
That's too much.
So then when we sold the house, I put the original vacuum back, mounted it back where it was. So we sold it with the, a functional central vac system, and we brought this one with us and replumbed it into the new house. But
sweet aroma, bum piss.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's funny. That is funny.
Chad says he took his wife out for a birthday supper last week. Oh, well, wish her a happy birthday from us. Had a $48 steak dinner, and it was not very good. Kind of sad. It was cold, not much potato or vegetable. Well, I will say that if you go out to the Sawmill or you go out to the Keg or any one of those kind of uptown restaurants, I do believe that those restaurants are for like specifically geared towards people that probably can't have a steak on an everyday. Like they're not meant for the guy that raises meat, that knows what a good cut of meat is.
We were talking about that when we came back. So we had to make a couple trips to Edmonton before our daughter was born to see a doctor down there. And the first night we went there, my wife had a gift card for the Keg, $100, been in her pocket for forever. So we went there, and I was actually shocked with no alcohol, just 2 meals was $103. But we had prime rib, and I mean, it's always good. But
it's hard to fuck up prime rib.
Basically, the rule of thumb for us is we don't order beef when we go out, because I do not believe that you will get a better piece of beef from no matter where they source it. I don't give a shit if it's Wagyu beef right from Japan. I do not believe it's going to be better than what I can raise myself.
Is Wagyu or is it Kobe? Which is the one that they get like back rubs every day?
I think they're the same.
Are they the same?
I think they're somehow the same.
Yeah.
But I really do believe that, and people, right away they get their I don't know. Well, what do you know? You don't know anything about beef and blah blah blah. And they're absolutely right. I don't. In my life, I've raised 20 steers. I think we did this year, 9 last year.
You walk into the Keg tomorrow and you just ask the crowd, how many cows have you ever raised? How many cows have you ever raised? How many cows have you ever raised?
But my point to that is where they're sourcing their beef is from massive feedlots with a lot of science behind feeding animals. Like these should be the best. They're out AAA Alberta beef. They should be, but when we went down that rabbit hole
Yeah.
in like the first or like the fifth live stream that we had done about the the commercial and factory farming side of things, that is not. You cannot kid yourself. That is not driven for what's best for the animal. That's best for the pocket and the calendar.
There is nowhere in the world that you will go that will not advertise their beef or their pork or their lamb or whatever cut of meat it is as the very best in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go down to the States and you eat one of those grain-fed steaks, and it'll be tough, it'll be bland, and they'll be proud of it. Right? It's got no marbling to it whatsoever because it's raised entirely on corn.
Mm-hmm.
At least we have that for us, I guess. We have some marbling. We have some fat content to our meat.
We do, but we also have, right? I mean, there was a guy just telling me the other day they're building 3 more feedlots down south, 100,000 head plus feedlots. So
Yeah.
when that feed is formulated, it's formulated full of antibiotics, and it's like it just you'd be naive to think it's not, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing feedlots in Texas, and it was just shocking how it didn't even. Until you got close, it didn't even look like animals. Like you wouldn't believe that there could be that much living stuff together with no green grass. Just, kind of dirt and cement and whatever. So, and I got to hand it to them. They do as good as they can with moving them around.
Like a concentration camp for cows.
It basically is, but I mean, so that's what you're getting and that's what you're getting shipped out to your restaurants and to your grocery stores and things like that. You're not, very seldom are you getting something as hands-on as what we do produce on our own farm and what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you got 2 here now that I guarantee will be the best beef you've ever eaten.
Well, I used to have a ram. What was his name? Cheltenham.
He's not right here, is he?
He's no, that's not him. That's not him. No, he had a violent tendency about him that was more geared towards me than anybody else, and I couldn't go in that field without a piece of chain or a hammer or like something that was like overkill, right? And I would have to like fucking smack him on the head, like you're like settle down. And he got a piece of me more than once, and once too many times, and so we ate him, and he was tougher than shit. Tasted glorious, just out of spite. I chewed through every ounce of tough meat and gristle. Just be like, that one time he had me pinned against the water trough and was just like, ugh, just like, oh, fuck you. Eat him with mint sauce and a smile on my face. But we did have we've had animals, during our early learning phases here that, weren't the cream of the crop for sure. But once you get the love for it, the understanding and the depth of knowledge and what it really takes to, get a world-class animal raised, for sure. For sure, you can do way over and above what any kind of commercially grown or feedlot, fattened animal is ever going to be.
Well, I definitely think so.
Yeah.
I mean, and even at this point, I would put what I raise up against anything, like confidently. I don't know if you've seen this trend that's it's on TikTok, baby. It's like tell me something that we've become so sensitized we don't even know it's a scam anymore. Have you seen that?
I have, yeah.
I was thinking like a good one to do on that would be like celebrity chefs.
Oh,
like everybody thinks this is so great. Gordon Ramsay is one, and I remember because the Master Chef was a good show, right? The first few seasons were good, and I remember one time there was the red team and the blue team, and anyways the red team lost. They all had to cook for these chefs' moms, and so anyways they made their plates and they put them out there, and the whatever team lost, and he asked the losing team, he said, and I thought that is probably the most
That's arrogant.
But the most intelligent answer to me that I could ever imagine. These are the best chefs in America, so we're told. These two teams. So, and they have to pick one. They're probably really good meals. So what are you going to say? I served you a fucking rotten McDonald's burger from behind the seat? Like they like, what a ridiculous question to ask. Why do you think you lost?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they didn't like my food. That's why I lost.
Yeah, it's because it tasted like shit.
Right? I'm not going to say, I didn't put enough salt in, right? And for someone like myself who I don't use salt, I don't use condiments at all, or very little.
Yeah.
You're fucking doing this and putting salt all like
Salt Bay.
Nonsense. And then charging $186 for a tomahawk. And everyone's excited, they're flocking to this.
Ludicrous,
it's just garbage. Just covering it in gold.
Yeah.
Like you're literally eating dirt, like a mineral found in the ground.
Yeah.
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 No, I'll take my grain-fed everyday molasses available, relatively good hay available, also grass available, everything available to make the best sirloin you will ever eat.
That's the gold, right there.
And then getting screamed at because fuck off. Like your shit probably sucks. That's why you're screaming all the time.
Well, it's funny because when we were in Vegas, we went to Hell's Kitchen, right? So it's Gordon Ramsay's big famous restaurant, right?
Fuck that guy.
And we had beef Wellington. That's his signature dish. And I felt like yelling in the kitchen. I felt like yelling, "You fucking donkey," because that's what he said on that show, right? You fucking or he takes that piece of bread. You remember that when he took that piece of bread and he put it on either side of that lady's face? What are you? You're an idiot sandwich. Anyways, we go for beef Wellington because that's his signature dish. Like you can't fuck it up. Like this is the number one thing you're known for. And I was so unimpressed. And I felt like, man, like we literally just flew them here. I mean, anybody can make puff pastry and wrap it, and I was just like, wow, huh? How anticlimactic, I guess, is what it would be, right? So,
well, I can say to me, it's funny because you're gonna have these people, and they're just, oh man, I just spent $700 at this steakhouse. It was the best I ever had. I'm thinking like, maybe it was the best you ever had.
Maybe they're eating fucking pizza pops every other day.
Say, when you eat fast food 4 meals a day, then maybe that was the best you ever had.
Although a McDonald's cheeseburger once in a while is a pretty good time.
Yeah, they do make a pretty good burger. Pretty good fries too.
I was a fat fuck the other day, and I went through the drive-thru and ordered 3 cheeseburgers. And just punished those things on the way to the ski hill before I had my skiing lesson.
Where you have to like pretend you're yelling at people in the back.
Yeah. There's totally more than just me in this truck. But in my defense, I hadn't eaten lunch, and it was like 3 o'clock or whatever. So I was hungry enough to eat a horse, right? So, but that's when you make bad life choices, right? So. Oh, Glenn's on. We missed Glenn. He was 9:51, so 8 minutes ago he's on. Good stuff. Fred says barley's a wonderful thing. That it is. Yeah, it's far better than corn, that's for sure.
Oh, it has to be part of it. I'm fully convinced. And not even a small part. Not the last, you only need to feed it for the last 4 weeks. No. It needs to be daily in the diet. I really believe that. In fact, my mom cooked up some meat that she had got from somebody the other day, and she knew right away that it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like she said, just by cooking it.
It's just weird, eh? Yeah.
So that's kind of neat. Same with the pork too, right? I mean, Jesus, you just don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, pork is one of those things. That's where. There's a good portion of the world's population that won't eat pork, and the reason behind it is they will eat anything, and there's a belief, and I think it's an accurate belief that you are what you eat, and so if you eat a pig that's eating garbage, well, then that's what you're going to put into your body, and that's ultimately going to lead to whatever health condition you have to live with.
I actually looked that
So-
up recently. The two big things was a split hoof
Yeah.
and the fact they don't chew their cud.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then of course,
you're
they're
supposed to have
like they're not even allowed to
They have
touch.
a cloven hoof. Yeah.
They're not even because like a pig does have a split hoof, so that's
Yeah.
weird. But
Yeah.
they don't chew their
But
cud.
they don't chew their cud.
And they're actually not even.
But they'll
not even
eat-
supposed
they'll
to
also-
touch the body.
That's right.
I didn't know that.
But they'll also eat carrion, right? They'll eat like dead things. Right.
Yeah.
So they would scavenge a dead thing, whereas like, well, of course a cow's not going to do this. So even like bears, you're not supposed to eat bears and stuff like that, right? So
Mm.
if you follow that kind of religious observance, but I don't know, for me, if it's got a controlled diet, well,
Mhm.
that's you're a little less concerned with what you're getting out of it because you know entirely what's going into it.
Yeah, well, that is true.
That's why we actually raised our own pigs when we did it, because it was like, well, we're in 100% control of what goes into this.
Yeah.
Whereas if I go to Costco and I buy that pasty, almost gray looking meat, well, I shouldn't even say pasty gray looking meat because they even add dye to it to
They do, yeah.
pink it up, right? So
They pump it full of like 40%
yeah, they
water to
talk
fat
about
to thicken
false
it up.
advertising. Yeah, they do that with the chicken breast too. They inject it full of salty water, and that's all the seasoned chicken breast. No, it's just meant to have flavor because the chicken that you've raised has no flavor because it spent its whole life living on living its own filth, basically, right?
And it's funny what people do notice too. So when we had got we get our turkeys now all farm raised locally for we'll buy 4 or 5 at one time and throw them in the freezer, so we got them for Christmas. And the first one we had got, my mom, she said this is the first time in like 20 years where I was able to make the gravy without using anything else.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, that's something I don't think of because I don't cook.
Yeah.
But right away people, and it's funny.
You don't cook at all?
I can cook, but my wife is a phenomenal cook, and she's a stay-at-home mom, so I don't.
Awesome.
Right.
That's good.
When we built our house, I had absolutely no. Well, I didn't have any say in anything, but I definitely didn't have any say in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like there were, I was fine with that because, right. I mean, I worked out in camp shacks or whatever, like not camps, but camp shacks where I cooked for myself. And I mean, I got fat too, so I didn't die.
You survived this far.
I can cook, but when I was down in the States, I had my own apartment.
You just don't have to.
I just don't need to, and there's no point because I cannot cook as good as her.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
Yeah.
I make donuts every Sunday.
I've
Knock their shit out of the 2 dozen donuts.
kicked the shit out of them, yeah.
But I can fry a piece of meat.
Anyway, sorry, that was a tangent. I apologize. I interrupted
This whole
you.
thing has been a tangent.
Yeah, we're not even talking about climate change
I knew that
anymore.
was going to happen. I did a short this afternoon,
Yeah.
and I was just like, because I wanted to get into that ignorant lady who actually defended a scammer.
So you
Defended a scammer.
You got to tell this story now. I mean, most of the crowd have heard a portion of this story.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody actually follows that page, but anyway, so what
Peace
was
Country Local Food Connection, right?
I think I sent that up a year ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it sort of took off. It was, there's about 1,400 people on there. I do some polls every once in a while just to see, So, anyways, overwhelmingly, this page is consumers. They're not producers, which is perfect. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of producers on there with a bunch of products ranging from vegetables to right up to beef.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of options. So there was one thing on there yesterday when we were going into town. This lady had 12 dozen eggs, $4 a dozen. Looked legit, picture and everything, name. So didn't think much of it. By the time we get to town,
Sarah Hudson.
By the time we get to town,
Greasy bitch.
the phone's dinging, and it's like, and then I read this one thing. It said, "Can you confirm this is a real producer?" And I was thinking, "Fucking no, I don't know how do you do that."
Yeah.
So anyway, but I got looking into it. So I clicked on the main profile, and there was like kind of generic pictures. They had like a generic picture of a chicken.
You're from
like,
Catman,
with
dude.
like a fucking copyright and shit on the bottom. I was like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
weird or whatever.
Yeah.
So, anyways, ended up to be a scam. So we deleted it right away, and I made a post about it. And I said, well, we had our first scam here. And maybe I shouldn't have put this in there, but we get quite a few questions about what's a pound of beef worth,
What's
a
the
pound
fair
of pork
price?
worth, what's some sausage worth, what's a dozen eggs worth.
What is the
so I
market
just
value?
put in there basically, in our opinion, $4 a dozen is too cheap,
Yeah.
right? And well, fuck the
It should
flack
be-
that I got.
That should be a buyer beware. Like it's too
and
good
that
to be
should
true.
right? And that's what it said. If it's too good to be
Yeah.
true,
Yeah.
just think this out. Please don't, and certainly don't PayPal
Yeah.
people money
Oh,
before you get
No.
the eggs. I mean,
Yeah.
you probably don't PayPal them at all because I don't think that's a common thing. I don't even have PayPal. Maybe people do, but lots of people deal in cash or e-transfer or whatever. But anyways, so right away I was getting, it's none of your business about what people charge. We sell our, and then like I said, we sell our eggs for $3 a dozen, while we sell our eggs for $4 a dozen. So I found myself trying to defend the fact that I don't give a fuck what you sell your stuff for.
yeah.
All I said was that's probably too cheap.
Yeah, if you want to slowly bleed to death financially, that's entirely up to you as a producer. Go ahead and sell your eggs for less than what they're costing you to make. That's not the point.
And then I had one lady say something along the lines of, it's none of your business. $4 a dozen is fair. We pay $5. It's none of your business what she sells them for. So that was a response to the scam. So this lady was actually defending
the
the
fact.
scam.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing was this morning, I was up at about 6 in the morning. It came on under another name, same picture, same everything.
On the same page?
On the same page.
Really?
Corey somehow got it set up that it automatically deletes it. But I was actually going to put in the comment section, all right, fuckers, here you go. Send $4.
Deal of the day.
Right? Do it.
Yeah.
All you people yesterday,
Yeah.
fucking here you go.
Here you
$4. Send PayPal $40.
Yeah.
Get 10 dozen set aside for you.
All you backyard chicken farmers should buy all of these for $4 a dozen, sell them for $5, and
it's stuff like that.
See how capitalism
You
works.
just want to pull your hair out. Like,
Yeah.
there is depending on where you buy your feed at, there is over $1 a dozen in feed alone if your chickens are laying 100% and eating 100% efficiently.
Yeah.
We know that's not going to happen. We know every chicken is not going to lay one egg every day.
No. You
should know that. If you don't,
I looked at the Miller's catalog because it came in the mail today, Miller's Hatchery catalog, and they even tell you, they're very transparent. It is 320 eggs per 52 weeks of laying. Not per year, but per 52 weeks of laying. So if you have a molt period, well, you're not laying. So during that period of time while they're laying, they're still not going to lay you an egg a day. You're at 0.85, something like that, right?
So now your cost per dozen, like I say, that it's over $1 a dozen is just feed alone, and that's at, because I kind of looked and I was doing a bit of research because I tried to do some research into this. That's at basically $17.50 a bag for a 50-pound bag. The most that I saw at PV Mart was $20 plus a bag.
Yeah.
So now you're actually more than $1 a dozen by quite a bit. It may be $1.50, $1.75, and then like say that's at maximum, or that's at 100% efficiency, where your chickens are only eating a quarter pound a day. They're producing one egg a day, which we know isn't going to happen.
Well, yeah, we know. Aside from maybe they eat a quarter pound a day, but how much do they? Depending on the feeder style you have, and I've done numerous videos on this too. Is like if they have free choice and they have just an open trough of feed, they will literally take money out of your wallet and then just throw it on the floor and shit on it.
Absolutely.
Out of spite, because they're evil little creatures. God love them for breakfast. But they'll take half of that grain and just throw it on the ground just because they can. To get that tasty little morsel that they want, right?
And that was my point to doing this. Like, you cannot get this cheaper than over $1 per dozen eggs. And most likely you're going to be closer to 2 or over 2. And then that doesn't factor in anything else.
Well,
from heating waterers to packing water to heating the coop if you need to shavings to grit to oyster shell to whatever else you're supplementing with. If you need some higher protein, higher fat feeds throughout the winter,
that's like
supplemental sunlight. It doesn't take any of that into account.
That's like the meme, right? I built this $3,000 chicken coop so I could have eggs for free. Like, you just don't understand operating cost, for one. You don't understand capital cost, amortization of capital cost, and then your ongoing operating cost. You're just literally just hemorrhaging money For what?
Well, and that's it, right?
You know, and I get it. Some folks just need a hobby. And if it's a hobby and whatever, that hobby makes you, a few coins to jingle in your pocket to replace the dollar bills that went out the door, well, I guess, it's whatever.
And I do get that too. And that's why I finally had to put I put a couple things. I said, do you guys not understand that what we're referring to was actually a scam?
Yeah.
We didn't just make this post about somebody selling eggs for. I don't give a shit.
It really had nothing to do with the price. It had to do with the fact that somebody was actually legitimately trying to take advantage of people that were trying to get locally sourced.
And there are people
farm
that
fresh
raise
eggs,
all sorts of stuff for weird reasons. I mean, we do it even with our beef. Our beef is mostly raised for friends and family.
Yeah.
I don't make anything off of it.
Yeah.
That was never even what it was about. I got young kids that I want to be involved. I want them to have some chores to do for the day. Also, I can spend $20,000 on a 16-foot lawnmower to try to mow this 6 acres. Or I could just buy 8 steers and let them roam around for the summer.
And turn it into food.
Also rejuvenate that ground, knock down some of the widowmakers in the bush.
Yeah.
Clean up some of the rose bushes, root through some of the ground if they're pigs. And at the end of the year, if I make a few bucks on the pigs, a few bucks a head even, $20, good enough. The local butcher gets some work. Everybody wins. So I get that. Yeah, some people just do this for different reasons.
Yeah.
But the whole point was just to educate people that $4 is most likely pretty cheap.
Yeah.
You should probably be closer to $6 or $7 or $7.50 or at least $5.
You're basically just taking the slack in your rope, right? You've taken idle land or unused land and just made it productive.
And it took no investment. That infrastructure existed. The underground waters were there. The lean-tos were there. The shelters were there.
You've had those pigs have fucked up some water.
It's cost some burnt fingers and some blastings with water in your face at -40 while you're trying to unthaw them, or thaw them out. But a lot of that too, unfortunately, with agriculture. That's
daily dose of comedy when you see that. That's for sure.
That's par for the course. You don't factor your time and your frustration into the value. That's just what you're doing. But
missed a pile of comments here. Justin just got on. He said, just got home. How was your live? Well, it's been good so far. I don't know. We talked about the climate and about how farming should stop for about half an hour, and then after that, it's just been.
No, we got an hour out of that.
Was it an hour?
It pretty good. I did. I knew we were going to go.
We had a good.
Because, you had a whole thing too with your chicken nonsense.
That's what Chad was saying. Yeah, he said a lot of chicken controversy this week, and my channel was the getting Chad's ribs hurting from laughing. So. The whole thing about Tractor Supply and this Producer's Pride feed. Yeah, sure. We don't have Tractor Supply here. We have PV Mart. Tractor Supply came to Canada, I think, in the late 90s or something like that, 97, and then PV Mart bought them all out.
Okay.
So we don't get that feed here, but needless to say, you could still go there and you could buy feed for $16 a bag or whatever, whatever the cheapest shit you can get off the shelf.
It's $20. I looked yesterday.
Yeah, sure. Whatever it is, right? So you go down to the States and I think it's $11 or $12 a bag there, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It's not high quality feed.
Yeah.
It's a complete ration. It provides the bare minimum they need to survive and to lay eggs. But it's not supercharging your chickens by any means, right? And this whole theory about they put something in there or they've changed something. So when you go back to the comments about a lot of these, and most of them are people with under 6 chickens, most of them, not all of them, most of them. Some people brag that they had one person said they had 1,200 chickens. Well, fuck you, you're a liar, because you're not going to Tractor Supply and buying
50-pound bags.
50-pound bags of chicken
that
feed.
Shit's coming in bulk.
Yeah, exactly.
It's most likely specific to your operation.
Yeah. You're a goddamn liar because you're just showboating on the internet to try and falsify information for the sake of doing it. Anyways, the people with less than 6 chickens. Well, my chicken stopped laying in September. Well, no shit. What happened in September? Well, it got cold. Well, the sun started going down earlier. Well, the sun started coming up later. Well, believe it or not, there's a whole thing about circadian rhythm with chickens. That why do they not lay during September or even October to March? Well, it's a natural instinct in chickens that if I lay this egg, I'm never going to hatch this egg because that fucking chick is going to freeze to death. So the circle of life needs to pause momentarily. We have a rest period. We shimmy off our coats. We put some new stuff on. We'll come back in the spring and we'll start again. Now, as producers, we can kind of influence that by way of providing artificial light and supplementary feed. And anybody that's done that for any length of time knows that to be factual. But yeah, these folks with half a dozen chickens or less. The one lady even come on, she just like, give me the gear. You can't say that. That just awful of you. I can't believe you would say that. I had a chicken die and one got sick, and then I switched off from Producer's Pride and I went back to my locally milled grains. So I said to her, I said, okay, well, I'm really sorry that your chicken died, but like, did you do an autopsy? Or like, in what way can you verify that had anything to do with feed? And they can't, right? So then folks now are saying, well, okay, well, I didn't have any chickens lay eggs for 6 months. And then I switched my feed and suddenly they're laying again. Well, yeah, it's the end of February. The days are getting longer. The weather's warmed up. It's unseasonably warm right now.
Yeah.
Even here, it's unseasonably warm. Your chickens are going to lay because the natural cycle of the weather, the environment, and like everything's doing what it should be doing to spur them on to be laying. It's got nothing to do with the tainted feed. And if it has anything to do with tainted feed, it's not because it happened in the factory. It happened somewhere between storage and distribution, right? Is it a problem in the warehouse, a problem in the truck, or a problem at the farm where it's stored? You know this, I mean, you as well as anybody. If you run, like we get a full tote, right? How long does that tote last before it starts to lose nutritional value?
Well, yeah, I mean,
immediately.
It's starting right away.
Yeah.
And if it's not stored properly, like you had alluded to too, I mean, then you're going to get all sorts of other things happening as well.
So, I mean, if you're buying whatever 150-pound bags and keeping them in your open lean-to in a relatively somewhat warm, humid environment, and they have rats down there and all kinds of stuff, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just not buying it. And like I said before, the whole theory that the government, or even there's folks that are linking Purina to all this. Like, that's literally the business they're in. That's how they make money, is by selling feed. It's not in their best interest to have a tainted feed scandal come out. It's really not.
That was one of the things that I told the federal inspector when they came out, and we were talking about things like that, recalls and all this other stuff. And I said, like, you realize it wouldn't be in my best interest to wipe out an entire herd or flock, or right, like,
yeah,
so
like that's
we do everything we can, from flush procedures and ensuring we don't use off grains and all this stuff, because we would like returning customers. And then more than that, we'd like really happy customers who say, like, this is really a good product. I don't want a bunch of bad press where people are like, yeah, no, we bought a bag there and we had 9 pigs die. That just wouldn't be good wouldn't be a good business model.
So this whole thing with Tractor Supply started. Well, it was a twofold attack that occurred. So there was a gentleman called the Urban Homesteader, who is a TikToker, and I mean, I don't want to get into beef on the internet with somebody that I've never met, don't follow, don't know from a hole in the wall. But you've got a guy that's an urban homesteader, and that's how they label themselves, right? They're not country. The furthest they've been into the country is, whatever the industrial park is where the feed store is. Beyond that, they've never actually been out into the actual country and tried to survive. And they're communicating to their following that there's a problem with the feed because their chickens stopped laying in July of 2022. What occurred in July of 2022? a North American heat wave. Even our chickens stopped laying. And we
Oh.
don't feed commercial feed. We feed your feed. But it was 42 fucking degrees outside. It was 42 degrees outside. What did I do? I sat in the house in front of the air conditioner after I dragged it off the side of the house with the side by side. You've all heard that story. But once I got it fixed, I sat in front of the air conditioner because it was too hot to do anything. And I wouldn't expect my chickens to go to work and do anything either. Right? But anyway, so there's an uneducated piece there that they just did not understand the environmental conditions, the environmental duress their chickens were under, that they as a producer were subjecting their animals to. It was bad animal management, bad husbandry. There was that. But there was also, I don't know if you follow them on YouTube, Doug and Stacy.
No.
Off Grid with Doug and Stacy is a very, very, very popular YouTube channel. And again, I don't want to get into beef with anybody, but Tractor Supply was supposed to sponsor basically a reality TV show with this couple. Now, Doug's a little, I mean, his tinfoil is wound tight, right? And I don't know if they got into a back and forth, but anyways, the TV show got canceled. And since then, that particular channel has been on the warpath against Tractor Supply.
It's highly critical, eh?
Highly critical to the point of like way out there conspiracies, like doing anything they can do to basically sink, what is the equivalent of PV Mart here in Canada, because, they didn't get their $500,000 production that they were going to get, right? So it's hurt feelings and a lack of education that's trying to take on this massive corporation that for once has actually done nothing wrong. They're just, they're just selling some low grade, I should say low grade, but bottom of the line chicken feed that a lot of people with 6 chickens are going to purchase because it's the cheapest thing out there for them to get.
Yeah.
When really what they need to do is increase their nutritional value during times of extreme stress, such as cold weather and lack of sunlight. Feed some corn, feed some black oil sunflower seed, throw a light bulb on for 4 hours, you'll have eggs. If you don't, well, then let's talk about what's going wrong. But anyways, that was a whole 3-day episode on that one.
And it was funny.
It was, well,
it still is funny. I go back.
It is funny.
I
but
go back and read through the comments.
Some of the comments
I make sure that I got them all.
Unbelievable. Like the first one, because the first day I pulled that roll of tinfoil out of the bucket of grain, and I laid awake at night the night before when I was planning that video, because like nothing scripted, but I was like, I'm going to pull this roll of tinfoil out of the bucket, and it's going to be the funniest shit you've seen on the internet. And to me, like I was laughing to it. I couldn't even sleep the night before because this is so funny. And the comments were just bam, 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 and like extreme. I was like, oh boy. Delete. Like, this is not good. This is really going to actually like genuinely perhaps even hurt my YouTube channel, right? And I was like, no, like to hell with these people. Like they're so out there. They're making uneducated and inaccurate statements. It's 100% misinformation. And there's nothing that's evident, like founded in evidence or fact at all. It's just all anecdotal information that everybody knows a guy, right?
Yeah.
But nobody can actually say they've experienced it. And the folks that are claiming to have experienced it are exaggerating their stories so far beyond belief that it's just not even reality. So then I give them the gears on the second day, which got mixed reviews. I think there was a lot of people that come forward and said, thank you for this. Like we're really appreciative that somebody is saying what we're all thinking. And then there was like the straight up like tinfoil hat crew that were like, no, Biden's coming for your chickens. Like,
well, it was like you had said in that video, right? People have a certain persuasion. You're just not going to persuade them. And it's amazing because no matter how much actual visual, factual stuff you show them, they're still just like, nope, it was the vaccine. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? We went from eggs to... Fair enough, I guess.
Yeah, and I even called a few people on some of those extraordinary comments and said, how is what you're saying related in any way, shape, or form to chickens not laying eggs? and give them the opportunity. And one guy come back and said, "Oh, it's to do with the Rona, and if your chickens can't lay eggs or whatever, that you can't get antibodies from the Rona or against the Rona." And I thought, man, that's again, you're giving so much credit to thousands of people that are elected officials that they're only elected officials because nobody else would put their goddamn name in the hat.
I know, right?
They're a party of fools.
A tremendous amount of acclaimed individuals who are looking after their own pensions, right? I mean, their ability to influence is actually quite limited. Right? I mean, nobody gives a shit what they say. We'd actually just all assume prefer they shut the fuck up and stop embarrassing us.
Well, and so
there's their $180,000 a year and leave the rest of us to do the work would be ideal.
There's the apathy factor, right? Like, I mean, idiots will make themselves known very, very quickly because they're usually the first person to open their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And most intelligent people know that, and they're generally not inclined to open their mouth for fear of retribution from somebody else. And there's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Where like the more you know about something, the less confident you feel about it. And I think there's a lot of genuinely intelligent, very knowledgeable producers out there that watched this whole thing unfold, that just shook their head and didn't say anything because they didn't want to get into it.
Yeah.
And that apathy doesn't do anything. Like I honestly think idiocy should be challenged.
I agree.
Right? Like if you're being a fucking retard, you should be called a retard. Like straight. I know I'm not allowed to say that word on the internet because I've already been admonished for that a couple of times.
You got hit on that pretty hard.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I mean, a fool is a fool and should be recognized as such. You don't need to try and re-educate that fool necessarily, but you should call a spade a spade.
Well, you're absolutely right. It should definitely be challenged. I think we've gone actually a little too long, maybe even a decade or more of just, like you say, kind of being quiet and like turning the other way and be like, oh God, I hope they don't see me, to the lunatic screaming in the street and stuff. Instead of just, calling them out, we give them almost a pedestal and, like a car accident. They kind of look.
Well, we watch. It's interesting to watch. What we got to understand now is that all of any idiot that can get a high-speed wireless connection for $49.95 a month or whatever, I mean, has access to a large audience.
Mm-hmm. And it's shocking what seems to gain the most attention is the most deplorable lowbrow shit.
Well, and it's generally not. What you see is people that they don't come right out and they tell a whole big story with statements and then things to back up those statements or backstory, and then what you see is that they'll insinuate something. They'll plant seeds, right? And the seeds of doubt, right? And suspicion, and that's how conspiracy theories really, really start. We kind of talked about this during our one live stream on conspiracy theories, but people start to doubt things that are well established as fact. And I mean, I get it. People are concerned. People are, they have fears just the same as anybody else. But sowing mistrust it's a really sneaky way that some individuals go about it.
Oh yeah,
and it's super shameful, super greasy, right?
It's very shameful.
Yeah. Anyways, what else we get? Chad said, this thing is Purina and those other big feed producers supply the big barns as well. The big producers haven't been bitching about their feed. Well, that's the thing. The guy that's got that's running 20,000 birds a year. Where are their complaints, right?
I know that's
okay. Well, there was a massive egg shortage. Is that because Purina's feed was shit, or was that because thousands of birds were culled because of avian flu?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I wish some of those big producers would just come forward and just but of course they don't want to. Nobody wants to come out and say, yeah, I had avian flu at my farm and I had to kill 7,000 birds. Nobody wants to say that.
No, there's very few. Well, even the what dude from, I think from Montreal or whatever, that showed him dumping the milk.
Well, that guy,
Jesus Christ, did he get some flack for that?
he should have got some flack though. So that guy, I don't know if he doesn't know how the milk industry works, or if he doesn't know how a dairy cow works. But he's dumping milk because he's out of quota. He doesn't understand that he can sell cows. He can dry off cows. I mean, the dairy is a really, really simple rotational calendar that you can just follow so that you breed your cows so that they produce at a certain time.
Well, it would be undeniable that there are ways to circumvent what had happened. But
yeah,
I guess it depends on how you look at his video. Is he pointing out basically the insanity of the quota system and basically the dairy cartel in Canada? A dumb, inefficient farmer who doesn't understand that he only has so much quota and he's got too many cows.
I think there's two sides to that. I think he's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, but I think that the viewer that watched that video doesn't understand column A or column B. All they see is that the government's making them dump 30,000 liters of milk.
And I mean, I'll admit it right here now. I think the dairy quota system and the dairy cartel system in Canada is shameful at best. I've talked to a lot of people who explain to me why it needs to exist.
Yep.
But I do not understand why cheese in the store needs to be $30 a block just so there isn't you. And it's funny because farmers always complain, but dairy farmers in Quebec, I believe, are some of the richest farmers in the country. How did we get there? When and they were very, so the Canadian Wheat Board was dissolved under Harper.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount of people for and a tremendous amount of people against. But my question is, how did we not? That was effectively a pooling, somewhat of a quota system.
Sure.
It wasn't good for the grain farmer, but it's really, really good for the dairy farmer. So explain that.
Yeah.
Like it's just, if we're going to have a quota system for the milk, we should have a quota system for the grain. And we don't, right? So and then why?
Yeah.
And even they now, like with the way that the cartels work, the rest of the world doesn't have access to the Canadian dairy industry. You get very few dairy products from anywhere else. And in fact, they were looking to open the market up, like I think 3.5% for American dairy products to come.
Fairlife products are coming across quite a bit now. You see,
and just a huge uproar in the dairy industry, like, oh, we can't have this. They're very protective of their situation. And one guy
they're held to
a
very high standard.
That
right?
you want to know that you're going to have milk every day, right? And you want to know that it's fresh milk. And if one day they produce way too much and then it all goes bad, the next day you don't have anything, I kind of get it. Yes, the quota system and the whole dairy system around is to ensure that there's enough supply all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think with anything, there's a lot of work to be done.
Well,
I don't think
that's one side of it, is keep enough supply at a time. But there's also undeniably the side of it that's we can control the price, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than any other commodity. You control production to control the price.
But I can see the other side where just go out and buy 50 more cows. And knowing that you're going to be dumping this milk to make a video or whatever, or because your lack of knowledge and your lack of understanding around how this process works. That could be what he was doing.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody bought cows to dump the milk, but I do think that there's you can dry your cows off early or whatever. Because you have a fairly consistent production. You know how many days are left in the year. You know when your quota expires.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in the UK and we were in the dairy industry, also had 10 days a year, 12 days a year, where we would suck out the vat with the honey wagon and go spread it on the field.
Yeah.
That was expected, right? If you were over and above your quota, that was expected. You could, of course, purchase additional quota or sell quota if you were under production, right? There were ways to do it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't take too much favor with the folks that cry too loudly about the system that they are very familiar with as though it's corrupt. Like they know what they're getting into.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that would be like me as a small producer trying to raise 2,500 meat birds on my farm, knowing that at 2,000 I need quota.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If I'm going to try and circumvent the rules of the game, I have to expect that the game is going to come and shit on me, right?
Oh yeah, no, very very true. But then, like I say, at that point, we need to look at the rules of the game and find out if the rules make sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure, we need to look at regulation, and definitely there's a lot of regulation there's a lot of regulation in agriculture that maybe should be imposed upon consumers. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Like, yeah, I don't mean to keep going back to this whole waste thing, but
I was just gonna say, how are you gonna tell someone what they can buy?
you can't tell them what they can buy, but like,
right, like rationing them because they're not
it
efficient enough to buy like a civilized amount or to buy even what they want, where they they buy something, put it in the fridge, and then like, fuck it.
It's tough, but you see these people, they're leaving Costco with two fucking $1,000 worth of groceries, 2 full shopping carts.
Yeah.
And they're back there the next week, and half that shit went in the dumpster.
It's very shameful, yeah.
And so the farmer is trying to produce to upkeep with the demand, and yet he's the guy that, or she, they're the person that gets shit on the most for their impact on the environment. But it's just basic supply and demand. It's basic economics, right? And if they don't produce, well, then they get shit on again.
Yeah, pretty much.
So,
yeah. Artificially lowering supply to increase price.
Anytime a farmer says anything about, positive pricing, it's like, well, man, like all these farmers, they always bitch when it's poor, and yet they never pay taxes, and they all get grant money, and like, what uneducated statements are those?
Yeah, those ones are tough. I find those ones right away that are like they assume there's just this endless supply. You just phone and you're like, yeah, I need another 50,000.
Just a rainbow, just like underneath your combine, like.
Because it maybe for some, I don't know, but it certainly has never happened to us.
Yeah, like I'm sure we're not at $2 trillion national deficit because of agricultural grants, right? I'm sure that exists because of international aid, welfare, and arts and theater programs. This is probably the first things I'd look to before I'd ever worry about feeding people. So even Fred says, yeah, we live in a generation of people who don't know what washroom to use, so chicken feed is minor. But it's funny though, like these things that don't seem to matter, they are the hugest distraction technique.
Oh, they are.
Right? Like this balloon, the balloon. What's actually going on in the government right now?
That wasn't on the live, was it? We talked about that before, or what? Or did we talk about
I think we talked about that right at the beginning, yeah, because we talked about F-22s.
We did, yeah.
F-18s.
Nonsense.
Yeah. All of it's a distraction tech. There's something internationally that's going on that somebody doesn't want us to know. But we just have to appreciate that the people that don't want us to know are buffoons.
They are.
Yeah.
They definitely are.
Yeah. And they may be highly educated buffoons, but they're buffoons nonetheless.
Which is a scary thing, because their little bit of influence is.
Yeah. I do need half a sip more. How about you? Just to wet my throat.
One more splash, yeah. Just one finger.
Say when.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Just a small finger. Whoa!
I gotta see if the water changed it, which it did.
You know what? Just for science.
For science.
For science. I'd be interested to know what the weather was like. Well, I know what the weather was like. It was fucking snowing the day this came down. But what the world was like when this water came down.
Oh man. I think this might have been the longest time where we kept up with 8 or 9 people. It usually fluctuates pretty good, but we don't see that surge near the end either that we saw before.
Chad's wondering how baby's doing.
Things are good on that front. That's the easiest keeper we've had so far. Only affected my sleep the first 2 nights home, and then not again. So lucky, I guess.
That is really good.
Which is crazy too. Like our first 2 kids were they were C-section babies, but they were problem free. There was no.
Yeah.
Then this third one was just like, oh boy, we got some situations. You guys better get to Edmonton. Okay, go to Edmonton, get tested. Okay, now we got a baseline. Go home, come back in a week.
Yeah.
Go back. Okay, yeah, no, well, things are elevated, but not too bad. Go back home, and then we'll deliver the baby in a week, and no issues. Baby was in the NICU for 2 nights, just be monitored, but no issues. And I thought, what a two-part thing. Like, what an amazing healthcare system in regards to childbirth.
Yeah.
Because, and I was going to make a TikTok about this because you see a lot of them, what it costs to have a baby in the United States, right?
Whew.
This is going to be kind of funny because what it cost us with 2 trips to Edmonton to see specialists and to go through those Doppler and all those tests and things, and then a C-section baby and then 2 nights in the NICU basically cost us like $42 worth of parking. Right, and then now you might be if you want to make it extreme, you got to factor in 2 hotel rooms in Edmonton,
sure,
and 2 meals out in Edmonton, and then that's ridiculous things, right? You can't put this in as a joke. But I guess on the other hand, what in overreaction to because 20 years ago you wouldn't know any of that stuff. Just you would have.
No.
I mean, you might have known that it was going to be a C-section baby 20 years ago, but you wouldn't have known all these elevated numbers about all these other things.
You would have dealt with those cards as they were dealt.
Absolutely, and then even they were like, okay, well, do you have any questions? And I was like, I wouldn't even know what to ask. Like, what an insane thing!
True.
What an insane thing to ask a roughneck.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
You spent 11 years in school. And you're a specialist.
I only went to medical school for 6 years, and I skipped a lecture on this part. So if you could just fill me in real quick, that'd be. Yeah, I don't even know what I don't know.
Even that first night in the NICU, the nurse kept asking me, are you okay with this? Are you okay with that? And I was thinking, and I finally asked her, I was like, do a lot of people have a lot of opinions? And she was like, some do, some don't.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I couldn't imagine going somewhere and for all their expertise and all their equipment and all their infrastructure, and then trying to dictate how it was going to go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now I get in really extreme situations, if religion comes in and stuff like that, maybe you have some reservations. But when they're do you mind if we give your child a soother? And I was thinking do they need it? I don't know. You're the nurse.
Yeah.
I mean, fill your boots, really. Do you mind, blood sugar is a little low. Do you mind if we give her some sugar? I don't know. You're the nurse.
Yeah.
What do you do in these situations? Don't ask me.
I'm guessing blood sugar low is not a good thing. So yeah, if you could just do something about that.
If you got wheat with fusarium, give me a call and I can maybe help you with the spray. But for this situation, I digress. I'll leave it to you.
Yeah.
And do your thing.
If your chickens aren't laying, come
right? Yeah, right. I know a guy.
Yeah,
right? If you have an issue with your chickens, give me a call. I know a guy. But I found that I found it kind of amusing.
It's kind of that you got to stay in your lane, right?
Really,
That's
you do.
Why you're in the hospital is because you're surrounded by subject matter experts. You're 100% where you need to be.
And that was amazing. In the operating room, there was I've never seen so many people, and even at the time. So once the baby was born, the numbers of people in that room went from fucking 8 to 16 instantly, and I was like,
yeah,
that's not good.
Yeah.
But I didn't I even asked them after, and they're like, oh, well, you handled that pretty well. And I was like, I had no fucking clue what was going on.
Yeah.
And I was in literally the best place. There was not a better place to be aside from the Stollery in Edmonton,
Yeah.
or maybe fucking a hospital in Toronto or Vancouver?
I assume you were just like behind the tarp.
I
Like,
was,
they got
right?
that tarp
I'm
up or whatever.
behind the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I refuse to be part of this. I even told them that. I was like, I even asked if I couldn't, like, if it was okay if I didn't even go in the room.
Okay,
What am I going to do in there?
They frown upon that.
Aside from passing out and becoming another casualty, right?
Yeah.
On the rigs, they always say, limit the risk,
Am I allowed to-
exposure to risk.
Am I allowed to bring a Gatorade in
I
there?
don't, I don't need to be in
Keep
there.
my blood sugar
I
up.
got you guys have Brondo on tap, right? what expecting fathers need, but no, that nurse even laughed, and because I was like, because she said, well, do you want to hold your baby? And I was like, well, yeah, absolutely, I do, but she's hooked up to like 90 different wires. I just watched you hook all of this shit up to her. I'm not going to ask you to take all that shit off. Like, she's in the best place where she needs to be.
Yeah.
So we'll just, right? I mean, once all, and they even said, like, it's going to be, we don't know how long it's going to be. It's not going to be a long time. So this is probably.
That's what I wasn't ready for when Finley was born. Because I was there when Charlotte was born, and she was a C-section, which was vastly different than when Michelle was born. But then you're like, okay, well, I've experienced this now. I know how it should go. But when Finley was born, it was like, sure, you're behind the curtain, but I mean, like, I'm a tall guy. Like, I can see like what they're doing. And this little doctor is like basically like up there, standing on top of Carmen, like she's trying to jack a transmission out of her or something. Like, just prying and reefing and pushing, pulling. And fuck, like, this is not like, I've seen this done with cows. This is not like this. Like,
I wonder if they're watching and appreciating us.
Yeah, yeah, right.
It's just fucking.
But you're just like
sleeping in the shop tonight.
This doesn't seem normal. At that point, I was like, this doesn't seem normal, right? And then when they got her out, it's like, okay, well then, like you said, the whole like let's try and like we've just rearranged your guts. Let's try and put all this stuff back together where it goes and sew it all back. The whole like medical team just like converges on her. I end up taking Finley out. And we're in the waiting room where we got these heated blankets or whatever, just having that skin-to-skin contact. And we sat there, and I'm like, and the guts are. I'm like, I'm getting hungry. Like, fuck, I've been here a long time. So we're in the waiting room like an hour, and I'm thinking, like, man, like, you should have her stitched up and like back out here by now. And I kept asking the nurse, like, this is not my first rodeo. Like, I know I've done this with farm animals, but I've also done this with my wife. And like, this is taking an extraordinarily long time. Like, what is going on? So you do get, you get concerned, right? But it all worked out in the end. Actually, it was because she had a C-section before, and it was scar tissue, I guess was called. I don't know if it was like tough to get the needle through the scar tissue or what the deal was, but anyways, it all worked out in the end. Everybody's healthy. Glad to hear yours is too.
It was good. Well, I learned things too, right? Because when my first daughter was born, I was like I told everybody, I don't want to be like part of the stuff here. Like I just want to be. If I got to be in the room, that's fine. But just like I'm just going to be over here, watching the game or whatever, right? Like just. And then when my boy was born, the doctor was like, "Oh, look what we got here," and I made the mistake and stood up. And I just about fucking eyes rolled back in my head, and I was like, "Oh boy, they were going down."
That's how I was when Michelle was born. Like I was like, thank Christ there was a chair behind me because I was going down.
Because I guess that's the thing. They want if you're the dad, you're in the room, they let you announce the gender, and I was just like, "Holy fuck!" So then I finally found this chair and got sitting down. And of course, I never said anything because I was still in shock. And so then this time come around, I was like, "Oh, do you want to?" I was like, "Nope."
No,
you take that glory, my friend.
Yeah.
What is it? Let us know. But just not. I'm not. There's a reason I'm not a doctor. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I'd spend more time with the eyes rolled in the back of my head on the floor.
But I don't know if you would though, right? Like, I mean, there's something.
Oh, I know. I got a blood test the other day, and I just about had to be
as a dad. I mean, there's just there's the magic of the moment. It's emotion. What does that to you, right? Emotion and adrenaline, and all the flooding of hormones that I think you, as a medical professional, you would become numb to.
No, I don't believe that for me.
Quickly. You don't think so?
Nope. Nope. Don't do blood. Don't even do hurt people.
No.
Nope. Don't want to be part of it. Never broken a bone in my body. Very safe individual. Don't like pain. Don't like. I love the medical system. I think it's great for
Yeah.
people that need it. Don't want to be part of it. Don't want to have needles and shit.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Just keep taking your Flintstones vitamins and
I'm good.
stay out of hospital, eh?
There's just no way. Not cut out for that.
Chad says the doctor asked me if I wanted to help when our boy was being born. Told him to give me a minute and get the chains out of the truck, and he was mortified. Yeah. Yeah. Fred says the doctor asked him. He said, you get paid for this, not me.
Yeah, I agree with Fred. Absolutely. Like you this is your job. You got the expertise. You got the know-how. That's why we're here. That's why we're not doing a home birth.
That's right.
This is why we're here.
Yeah. Well, even a home birth, you think about that. Like, what's the dad or what's the man's job during a home birth?
Be at work.
Boil water. Well, maybe if you're there though, right? Boil water and get towels. But when you think about it, like, what do you even need boiled water and towels for? You don't. That's just a task that you're given to stay the fuck out of the way while the people that know what they're doing manage the situation.
Oh,
right? So, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Doctor didn't believe Chad's wife that he even had a husband. He was too busy working. Didn't make it to the appointments until she was induced the third time. Oh, man. Well, my father-in-law, I don't even think I might be dishonest about this one, but not intentionally. But I don't even think he made it to any of his kids' births. Like, I know he dropped Ginny off while she was in labor in the gravel truck. She went and gave birth, and he went and hauled gravel. Came back when she was done.
In a different time.
Yeah, yeah. Probably smoked a pack of darts on the way there, and
that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Well, I didn't go to all the appointments. I didn't say that, but I definitely was at all three of them so far, and then I did go to Edmonton. It was, and what a fantastic, because you hear that quite a bit, and I'll even admit when it comes to knee surgeries and shit like that, Canada's lacking a little bit for some of that stuff, right? I mean, I know some people that are on waiting lists and things like that.
Sure, yeah.
But you cannot argue when it comes to childbirth.
When it comes to childbirth,
this is a tremendously beneficial country to do that.
Yeah, we got that figured out for sure.
That's amazing. When we went to that lowest hole part of that hospital, and what's that? Is it the Glen Rose?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the funny thing too is, and this is kind of the person I am. So I'm sitting there. And
Alex.
I had what's that?
Is it Royal Alex?
That must be one.
I think it's Royal Alex. Yeah.
So I'm sitting there reading this book, and they're like, "Oh, you can come in." And I had just finished reading the big thing on the wall and everything that this is a women's-specific hospital, and I was like, "This is amazing. This is perfect. This should exist in every city, everywhere."
Yeah.
And they say, "Do you want to come in?" And I said, "Absolutely not. This is like a women's specific thing." I am like, you guys do your thing.
I'm gonna stay out here and play the VLTs while you.
But even out of just respect for all the other people, there was like a ton of women there, and they were all going in and walking up and down the hallways doing the thing in their gowns and everything.
Yeah.
Fuck, I shouldn't even be allowed in the building.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, like this is a women's specific thing. It's a good place for them. They got all their expertise and their specialists and all the know-how. They have the common ground to have all their discussions and things. And I'll be in the waiting room over here out of everybody's way. If you need me, if there's a reason for me to be involved, I can't imagine what one would be.
You need a 10mm socket or something.
Page me, give me, because they have the little brick that flashes when it's your turn. Shoot me a
your
text,
reservation is ready.
And I'll go up to whatever room you need. But other than that, I'm going to be the guy way the fuck over here, out of the way.
Try not to lower the IQ in the room
exactly.
here. Yeah.
Right? You don't need any of this anywhere near over there. So I'll be over here. But that's just my view on all of that. But yeah, like just truly amazing. Even that guy, like Corey was saying, like he's the head of all the NICUs in Alberta. He's like, get your husband to give me a call if he has any questions. And I'm thinking like, fuck, what would I say to that guy?
Yeah, what would you ask?
Who you got at the Super Bowl, right? Like
yeah.
But
you can't draw common.
You watch football?
You can't draw common ground, right? Yeah.
So, but
Well, I'm glad it's all working out good for you guys.
you bet. Yeah, happy and healthy. A little bit yellow, had some elevated levels there, but
That's
of course
pretty
the sun
common
didn't
though,
shine
right?
for the fucking first 5 days.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really helpful. But
Throw some lights at her.
D drops, and they didn't actually put her under the lights. They thought they'd have to take her back, which was what they were worried about, right? Anemia, jaundice, things like that.
Yeah.
And didn't. She was definitely yellower than the other two, but
yeah. But you know when when Carmen was pregnant with Charlotte, she went for an ultrasound, and the doctor, because they see the heartbeat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the doctors there picked up an arrhythmia, like an irregular heartbeat. And so we were going a couple times, and we went for like right up until last year for EKG tests on Charlotte, because they thought, okay, maybe she had this concerning heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And fuck, she never had an issue with it, right? But like you said, like it wouldn't have been that many years ago that we never would have even seen anything like that.
No.
You know, the technology that's available for phenomenal. I just wish that we could take care of folks once they're on the outside a little bit better.
And that's exactly it, right? I mean, there's a long ways to go with all of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody can be an armchair quarterback and point out, well, what we should be doing. But I mean, there's their whole issues, I'm sure. But no, that was amazing, because, like I say, that was the other two kids were just, they were just born, and within a few hours, Corey was out of recovery. Baby was in the room with mom. Overnight in the hospital, gone the next day.
Yeah.
And so this was 2 nights in the hospital, gone the next day. But this was the only one where there seemed to be more people involved, and I thought, like, that's incredible. Like, that's something else. And it seemed to, like, even they said, like, a lot of this is just precautionary, right? Because of everything that went on before.
Sure.
Right? Because of the concern from before. And I thought, like, that's amazing. All of this for a what if. Amazing.
Yeah. There's a lot of give a shit, right?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Even when she was born, that NICU nurse right away was like, no, we're going to take this baby over to the NICU. And I was just like, this is bizarre, but very, very fortunate.
We ended up back in the NICU, actually. Like, after Finley was born, we come home for 2 weeks, and then she got real sick, and we had to go back to the NICU. And it was surprising. Like, we were the only parents. Like, wow, maybe there was another set of parents, but towards the end, but like, people would just come and drop their kid off and then go home. I couldn't fucking believe that. Like,
well, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent on that. I didn't. So when my first daughter was born, I stayed both nights at the hospital.
Yeah.
When my boy was born, I stayed the first night, and then my sister-in-law stayed the second night.
Yeah.
And when the last one was born, I didn't stay one night.
But would you leave one parent there?
I think definitely the mom should stay. But I even told the NICU. I told the NICU nurse. I said, like, what's the plan now? Like, because originally you thought maybe 8 hours. Our daughter was born around noon.
Yeah.
So I said, you originally guys thought around 8 hours. She said, no, she's going to be here overnight.
Yeah.
And Corey was, I think at that point she was in a wheelchair, but wheeling from her room over to the NICU.
Sure. Because
they're close there in the Grand Prairie Hospital. And I said, well, I think that I'm just going to go home then.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing I can do aside from just sit here and watch a nurse. Basically, there's in the NICU, I think it's 1 for 1.
Yeah, so, it is. 1 for 2.
So what's I mean, it's, and like I told her, it's not like I'm an evil son of a bitch. I just, like, she's hooked up to all that shit, and there's no holding the child or anything. So, and you're right there, and Corey's got to rest.
Yeah,
and you can they radio each other and shit, and however that all goes. There's that over there. I think it's 1 for 2 then, or whatever, 1 nurse for 2 pregnant ladies.
Yeah.
Anyways, and there didn't seem to be a bunch of people there. So there seemed to be a lot of women there that I just didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I mean, I stayed till 9 o'clock.
I get that if there's one parent staying, but like we were there, it was like both parents would come in at like 10:30. They'd stay for like 40 minutes, and then both parents would leave.
Yeah.
I thought that was extraordinary, right? Like, if my newborn baby's in there, I probably want to come for more than a couple hours.
Yeah,
And I probably want one parent at least to stay and be like, are we good? Or are we not good? You know?
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I do see it on the other hand too. I mean, if it's a right, I mean, especially if it's a low risk thing.
Yeah.
I mean, generally it's not, right? If
Well, I mean, if you're in the NICU,
but for
I mean,
our daughter, it was a very precautionary thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, they told us that. Now, of course, anything can go sideways and anything can go good as well. But I mean, like what?
And maybe that was just, you know, it was very prevalent to us because it was a very serious thing.
Yeah.
At the time, it seemed like a very serious thing. Your kid can't breathe, and they're only this big. I mean, it seems really, really serious. It just seemed, you know, other folks were very nonchalant about something that seemed quite serious. But
yeah, I mean, I suppose it would be situational. I mean,
Yeah.
we know people whose children end up in the NICU for like 4 weeks.
yeah,
So can you know, do you need to be there 24 hours a day
Yeah.
for 4 weeks or?
actually, yeah, I struggle with that even with work and stuff, right? Like, my boss would phone over and be like, "Where are you at?" I'm like, "I'm at the fucking hospital with my kid." Well, why? I don't want to have this conversation with you right now. So, yeah, interesting. Anyways, damn near broke my hand. Who broke my hand? Nothing beautiful about that. Yeah, I've had a broken hand before, and it's not a good time. Yeah. What are we at for time? 3 hours.
Wow, we made 3. Last time I looked, I think it was 120, and I was thinking,
Yeah.
how are we going to make 2?
Yeah.
Them tangents, that's where it's at. The topic is just like
Greasy old rabbit holes, eh?
something to do a little bit of research on, and then
Yeah.
forget about that altogether.
I never even talked about my new book today yet either. I showed you my recent thrift store find. This is a first edition copy of The Wide Wide World. So this is actually in the United States. This was the very first bestseller. I paid $1.75 for this book. It was written in 1850. Written by a lady named Susan Warner under the epithet or the pseudonym of Elizabeth Wetherall. It was only dwarfed in popularity, and really it was like questionable whether it was dwarfed in popularity at all. But Uncle Tom's Cabin, I don't know if you ever read that book.
I've heard of
It was
it.
like the most popular piece of American literature ever.
You know, I didn't read that book.
Well, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I had to do a book report or something in school. But anyways, yeah, I got a first edition written in 1850. And it's cool because when you open the front cover, you can see that this book was gifted to Miss Bessie Cruikshank as a present from her sister on September 20th, 1898. So it was probably a used book at that point in time. And there's Cruikshanks like in this area, right? Like in the Spirit River, Rycroft, Bonanza area. So book's got a lot of history. Anyways, I thought it was kind of a cool thing. And it is actually it's written as a guide for young ladies on their conduct, how to respect their elders, how to be subordinate and obedient to their male counterparts in society. So always kind of, well, you know, I'm an avid reader, but I think I collect more books than I ever read. But I always thought this one was interesting, and I like to read old books because I've wanted to learn from people that built the world that we live in, more so than read, you know, from modern authors that want to tear society down. Right? I've always been more of a
definitely get that.
I've been more of like, how did we get here, than like, you know,
How are we leaving?
How are we leaving? You know, I'd rather understand the why than you know, where are we going? You know, I don't know. I've never been one for destruction. I've always been more for construction, right? So old books, I got a whole collection of them up here, right? But that was this week's find. $1.75 for a book that's probably, I don't even know what it's worth. I'll have to look it up, but I got to read it first. You know, the pages are pretty fragile, but
I can't believe the condition that it's in. Like,
you know, it is actually
nobody spilled anything on that book.
well, except for the cover. There is a ring on the cover.
Somebody said a
Somebody
teacup
put
on
a teacup on it. You know, I think it's an interesting book. Anyways, I'll have to read it. I got another one too, but that's about Moorish Spain in medieval era. So I'll have to read that one too. But that was this week's lucky find, anyways. So every once in a while, you find something that's. I think the oldest one I had was 105 years old, and this is now 1850. What is that? 173 years old. So that's wild to think, right? And it can hold that, and to think that how many hands have read this book, and how many lives has it influenced. And it's funny. So this book actually, when it was first published in 1850, in the 2 years following 1850 to 1852, underwent 14 revisions, right? And to have like a first edition is like, it's just like,
that's crazy.
I don't know. That's pretty cool to have, right? Just to find that for like a couple bucks, right? So, yeah.
That is a cool book, and I'm not a reader.
Maybe it's no match for the. It might not be any match for the Scotch book, but that'll actually probably be my first read. I gotta read the Scotch book. I gotta get you the Cigar book.
It has a thing in it, so it's fancy too.
Yeah, I don't think a
bookmark thing.
The Cigar book doesn't have a Scotch. It doesn't have a tassel. It doesn't have a bookmark.
So that's actually set to
this distillery.
Yeah,
that is cool. Yeah, the Cigar book definitely. Yeah, it's, a third of it is like the whole history and like the story behind cigar, like the primitive tribes of North America.
But you said lots of pictures.
Lots of pictures. Kind of yeah, and then it gets into the individual cigar manufacturers and the lines they had. But it's a kind of an older, like it speaks a lot to like the cigar culture in the mid 1990s. So I don't know how like new that publication is, but to speak, you know, it's speaking to some brands that you can't even get anymore.
Okay.
You know, but and at the very end, actually, I was surprised. Like, so we've got the humidor, right? I think we could all agree that that's like the way to go. Like, if you want to keep cigars,
I don't think so, yeah.
That's the way to go. And at the end of the book, it actually even speaks like just putting a wet sponge in a cupboard with your cigars. You know, I mean, you probably could, but
so I guess it depends on where you live.
It's one of those things where, you know, with 35 years, have we come a little bit further than what was originally presented?
I suppose,
right? So, yeah.
I see where it probably depends on where you live. When you spend 0% humidity.
Yeah, that's right.
Your house is snapping and cracking, and the boards are cracking probably more than a sponge.
Yeah. When your house is made of real wood, not OSB, right? So, yeah. Anyways, what do you think? Should we let some folks go to bed or what?
I guess so. 3 hours is probably enough. Anybody got any final thoughts on the evening?
Might have to have a dessert cigar afterwards, but what did we finish off?
There's always an after party.
Comments. Lots of different topics. Copy for my wife. Getting books and items with lots of history is always cool. Yeah, I've got. Oh, I mean, that's not even close. When we moved, I probably sent 250, 300 books to the market because it just wasn't in a position to keep them, right? So it's kind of cool to kind of rebuild that collection now. I might need to record that, Chad. It may go viral with the beating that follows. I don't know what Chad's doing, but he's going to get in trouble with his wife by the looks of it. Apparently he's getting a glare. It's been down that road.
I'll have to go back after and read.
Yeah, we'll have to sweep through the comments real quick.
I have to go back through them all anyways to find out who's going to get entered in the drawing.
Yeah, we got a few.
I never get to follow the live like stand-ups because the computer's not tilted this way. But
yeah, I've only got so much USB cable.
Well, you're selfish, I guess. That's what it is.
That's what it is. Well, I mean, we could-
That's fine.
you could
It's
sit
fine.
here.
No, it's fine.
You could sit here, but then
I'll go here.
I'd be in that chair and I'd probably
You probably
slouch.
cut it. You probably cut it at half an inch off these legs. Is probably what you did. So
Yeah.
it fit down
That
here like a
cushion-
slob.
That chair is a year older than this one, so that cushion's
Okay.
a little bit more
I'll blame Charlotte. That hurts her.
sacked out.
So
Yeah.
it's her fault.
Yeah, she comes up to read books once in a while. That's kind of cool thing, right? So, like the old Wind in the Willows or something, right?
Mhm.
I got a copy of the Wind in the Willows second edition. It's not a first edition, but pretty cool, right? She'll come up and read about Mr. Frog or Toad and the
Mhm.
Badger and all that kind of stuff, right? So, what do we got here? Chad says, good night, ladies. Congrats on the new little one. Happy to hear everyone's doing well.
Well, thank you.
Michelle says you guys are awesome. I don't know. I mean, I think so, but yeah. So, all right. Well, we better let folks go.
All right.
So
everybody,
thanks
have a
for
good night.
joining
Enjoy
us.
your weekend.
Let us know maybe in the comments what you'd like to watch the next time.
Yeah, we'll have to throw up a poll or something and see where we go from here.
Yeah.
I want to do the Puppuccinos one. It never wins out.
Puppuccinos, yeah, that's a tough one. I don't think people know what Puppuccinos is. You might have to like rephrase.
Well, they don't, but then it's like, is excess distorting reality? And I think that just sounds cool.
I had
Because-
to look up what a puppuccino was. Like, I'd never even heard of it.
Oh, I have.
Just a giant
And
cup
it's
of
just
whipped
like, it
cream.
just fucking irritates me. But whatever. You know, it's-
Well, there you go. Future live stream on puppuccinos.
Gonna have to. Well, we got a couple in the back pocket there yet. But that's
Yeah.
fine. I'm gonna put it in the next poll. It never wins. We want it to win.
Yeah.
But this was actually, I think, the first one we did where it was over 50%.
Yeah, it was like 54
It wasn't like
or
it wasn't
something
like the
that.
most popular one, but it was still less than 50%. It actually was.
Yeah, lots of times
So-
the crowd is split on what they want to talk to, right? Yeah.
So, awesome.
Okay, well, have a
Good
good night,
stuff.
folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.